Welcome back to the 12th man. Special guest this week, John Boner. We're going to be looking at the North London Derby fight. The Spurs beat Arsenal. We're going to be looking back at Liverpool's performance against Wolves. Manchester United's comeback one against West Ham, as well as looking ahead to tonight's Champions League game against Leipzig. We're also going to be discussing in depth the two Irish teams' draws in the World Cup 2022. I lost that there, Qatar. But I'm also going to be looking back at the FA Cup final as well, where Dundalk beat Shamrock Rovers as well. So some big talking points to look back. Delighted to have John on the show.
Good to hear about
fellow coach at Maiden City. He might have a few times to disagree with Zach Liddell said a couple of weeks ago. I'm trying to see what he says about some of these points. But only one place to start for me, John, and it's not because I'm a Spurs fan. It was the big game at the weekend, and I did see, probably a lot of people did predict it as well. I did see Spurs beat Arsenal. But there's probably one person that didn't see it, and that was Arteta, because the way he set up the team, I thought was quite strange. He's been cautious over the last few weeks, and he sort of went a bit gung ho for the Spurs game. Maybe thinking that if we try and rattle Spurs early on, they'll retreat and we can get a grip on the game. But that backfire. First time Spurs broke out, they did punish him with that goal, and they just never really seemed to get back into the game. So, do you think it was Jose masterclass, or do you think maybe Arteta just got it all wrong?
My opinion, I'd say it's a wee bit of both, because Mourinho has found a wee way it works for him the last couple of weeks, hitting a bit deeper, bringing teams on them and hitting them the counter, with Kane dropping in, Son doing the running, and you've seen that. They sat back, which meant Arsenal had no other choice but to go forward, and when they went forward, it was shown in the goalie Bellerin. Bellerin was caught sprinting up a pitch, left a big gap for them to attack. And to be fair, it wasn't an easy chance, but Son was still able to take it.
I thought you can maybe be a bit more expressive and a bit more, because I know the Arsenal fans were demanding them to be a bit more attacking. But I don't know whether it was Arteta or it was Bellerin, but for just leave that space for Son to attack, it just seemed really, really strange. He's the most unformed player in the league, one of the most unformed players. Carragher said on last night's show, Monday Night Football, he was watching it on the iPad on the way back from Sheffield United's game against Leicester, and he said after 30 seconds I feared for Arsenal, because Bellerin pushed high on one side and Tierney pushed high on the other side, and just left Kane and Son so much space.
Exactly. You can't be leaving them 2v2 against, alright, Gabriel's a good centre half, but other than him, they haven't got another good centre half, do them? They're obviously not giving the young boy Saliba a chance, but to be fair, I don't know if it's Arteta or if it's just the players, but I would say it's actually more just the players, because you've seen it with Xhaka. I think it was for the second goal, Kane's. Xhaka with 6 players in front of him. It was shown last night on Sky Sports as well. Xhaka just starts bombing into the penalty box, leaving Lo Celso standing away 30 yards of space. I think it just comes down to the players just not being tuned in.
Talking about tactics and stuff, but that is common sense. I think a player Xhaka's experience. You're not talking about a young player. A boy, he's inexperienced. He's experienced international, Switzerland, been at Arsenal for a few years, and just they leave that space, not sensing. I think Graham Souness said not sensing danger. He doesn't know what his position is. Where he's defensive midfielder, a box to box. Where's his actual position? He just left that space for Lo Celso, and it's right on the stroke of half time. You go on at half time, 1-0 down. You have a chance. Going around 2-0 down to Spurs and the way they've been playing, very difficult to turn it around. So, as you say, you can talk about tactics, but that's just down to a player not doing the basics and just leaving that space for somebody like Kane or Lo Celso to attack with.
That's what I was coming down to common sense, because from no age you should be looking around your shoulder. You should be looking to see where the man around you. Xhaka sees that there's 6 players in front of him. It's still stupid enough to bomb into the box, and Lo Celso left in that space. No, if he checks over his shoulder, he sees him there. Whereas the same way Bellerin, when he was coming back for that goal, he just looks at the ball. I swear to God, he's like a 6-year-old. He just went towards the ball, forgot about Son behind him. Son he makes the run. So it comes down to common sense. Just look over your shoulder.
6-year-olds can still throw the ball properly. I can't teach my boys. They throw the ball properly.
I've seen that. The top 5 leagues is the most foul throw-ins. I don't know what it is.
Apparently this is the thing too with Arteta, right? You could say like Bellerin not doing the basics, Xhaka doing the basics, not doing the basics. He begged these players to stay apparently in the summer. He let Bellerin could have went to PSG. He begged them to stay. think Xhaka could have went somewhere for 30 or 40 million, and he said, no, I want to keep him. So he's let these players stay. Maybe, I'm not sure what he's seen, because from what I've seen over them in the last couple of years, they're not good enough for a team like Arsenal. But again, he's placed that trust in players like Bellerin and Xhaka, and they've really, really let him down in a big game.
To be fair, I think it's more down to what he's been left with. Apart from Pepe and Partey, it's the first time Arsenal parted with big money since Ozil, and he needs the majority of that squad to be replaced, and it's not going to take one summer. It's going to take 2 or 3 summers at least. So I think it's a case of he's making do with what he has. That's why he's playing 3 at the back. He came out, I think it was a week or 2 ago, and he said that he wants to play a 4-3-3, but he hasn't got the players for it. He needs, I think it was between 4 and 6 new players, and I would say maybe 2 centre mids and a right back should be top at last anyway.
Yeah, I think even coming out and saying something, I need 4 or 5, 6 players. That sort of tells the players they're not good enough as well. But I think Jurgen touched on it. What he liked about Arteta at the start was that he wasn't afraid to go against these methods. He's from Barcelona. He's worked with Pep. He's obviously going to be about attacking football. But you've seen in them games last year against Liverpool in the league, they won 2-1. They beat Man City in the semi-final of the cup. They beat Chelsea in the cup final, and they all suffocated possession to them teams. They let, I think they had something like 30% of the ball against Liverpool. I think they had like 20-something% against Man City. And then even away at Old Trafford, United had more possession there against them a few weeks ago. But in this game, they had 70% of the ball against Spurs. So it was just like he completely changed what was working for him. So what do you think that was down to? Just pressure from fans, or maybe just the fact they haven't scoring goals? He thought he needed to change it.
Well, I would say with the Arsenal and Spurs match, it was more a case of Spurs sitting in, sticking to their plan. So they did have to come forward up, keep more of the ball, but they're still lacking ideas when they do have the ball. I've seen a thing in match of the day, and it was 55 passes for every shot they take. So for every 10 passes, they're making the match 550 passes. You're not going to get that week in, week out in the Premiership. You get 10 shots. They need to be a bit more direct, try and get the ball on Aubameyang, try and get him on behind. He seems to have lost his shooting boots, to be fair. He's went through a bit of a dry spell.
He's lost all his confidence, but you look at that game, right, on Sunday, and I think they had something like 44 crosses into the box. Or 54, it was 44, 54. It's the most in a game this season by any team. And you're thinking, how many headers have you seen Aubameyang score? Not just at Arsenal, at Dortmund. It's not that type of player. So they're not really playing things. I think his work rate's gone down. That's only natural when you've lost your confidence, and that you've probably lost belief in the way the team's playing, that you maybe do sulk a bit. As a leader, you would expect more, but the way they're playing, they aren't giving him much of a chance to score. He's not the type of player that scores a lot of goals outside the box. He's not really like a Harry Kane or them types of players can pick a ball 30 yards out. He's really a poacher, and he's one of the best at it. They're not really creating them types of chances for him. So how does he start? I mean, I don't know where his next goal is going to come from.
No, I don't know either. As you say with the crosses, if you have a small team, which I wouldn't say Lacazette's the tall, he can't seem to score either. The amount of big chances he's missed the last month or two is ridiculous.
Centre halves are usually bigger. You won't get the odd striker like Giroud or something like that, but most strikers now are smaller. So it's difficult to unless it's a really good cross, it's going to be difficult. But I looked at them crosses of the week. Tierney was whacking them on from 40 yards into the box, and William was just sort of floating them in. They weren't really trying to pick anybody out. So it's always going to be difficult when you have players like Aubameyang and Lacazette.
You look at Lacazette and Aubameyang, maybe their tallest players. If they're playing a 3-4-3, William, tiny, Saka, not exactly the biggest player. Xhaka is going to be sitting, Partey, him and Xhaka might get to the edge of the box to hide it. So they've literally got Aubameyang, Lacazette, and 2 small wide players to aim at. Then you've got the 2 wing backs. They haven't got much to aim at. So it's all well and good getting these crosses. If you're say Liverpool with a smaller side and you're playing them on behind, you're playing the low crosses like for Liverpool's 4th goal on Sunday. That's good. That's what you should be doing if you're playing with smaller players. But Spurs are sitting deep and you're firing these crosses on. You've got Eric Dyer built like a side of a house, and you've got Alderweireld on there. They're getting cleared.
I think if you ask them, the way you play Arsenal, usually on for a hard game. I think they realised the way Arsenal played it, just played in their hands. You can talk about this, but just the way they hook balls into the box. Dyer and Alderweireld were really up for it. They loved it. They think we fancy ourselves every day of the week against these boys in the air. And it's just
Exactly.
the longer it went on, I thought they could still be playing now and they wouldn't have scored. You know, it was really, really not like Arsenal. Arsenal I've seen over the years, even when they haven't been at their best, they were always dangerous, and they just have lost all that danger at the moment.
No, exactly. But as you say, with Dyer and Alderweireld, they're not exactly the paciest, so they won't want the balls played on behind. So they're sitting deep, and the balls are getting lumped on. They're seeing everything in front of them, and they're going to be happy as I don't know what. The ball's coming on top of them, they can just head them out, and then they're grand. And as you say, like with the plan with Arteta, I think Arteta's still the man for the job. Some boys might disagree and say that
I want to get into that.
they might think he's useless, but I still think he's a man for the job. Like,
I see the first goal, right? If you were looking at it from a tactical point of view, you could possibly blame Arteta because maybe he's told Bellerin or Tierney to push on. But I mean, surely he must have thought about Kane and Son. So I think it's probably happened, and it's one of them things where his players have just totally lost their concentration, not realised stopped the danger, or maybe relied on Xhaka or somebody like that. They block out that danger if they go forward. You look at the second goal, this week can stick up for Arteta, because the second goal, Xhaka just completely empties them on field with the space, and then they also, our issue we haven't really touched on was Partey just walked off the pitch, so they basically lost years, and they've just let Lo Celso and Kane and Son completely run at them. And you can see Arteta actually trying to push Partey back onto the pitch. It was quite funny just watching it, but he was trying to get him back onto the pitch. He travels for a couple of yards and falls down. So, you know, surely a player like Partey, he's 27, played at Atletico Madrid. There's no way he does that at Atletico Madrid. He just walks off. Simeone would have won for him, right? So, again, I think Partey could be falling into the Arsenal tricks of, you know, that there doesn't surprise me what happened with Arsenal. Just walking off the pitch, leaving that space, not snuffing the danger. But that's, to me, down to a personal choice. So he's left that space. I think Carragher and Souness talked about it, and Alex Scott as well. If you're injured, go down on the pitch and get the ball kicked out of play. You just walk off the pitch, you know, completely leave your responsibilities as a player, and then that goal goes on 2-0. And see when the goal went in, he didn't even look at, like, it didn't even matter. That walked off, you know. So again, I just don't know what Arteta is thinking there, or, you know, is it something that he's influenced as well? As I think Stephen was on the show on Friday, he's an Arsenal fan, he was saying, I think Arsenal are becoming even softer under Arteta. So, you know, I just don't know where they're at the moment.
I don't know about becoming softer. They're obviously going through a bad spell, but if you look at how solid they were, like, with that side, they won the FA Cup.
Yep.
You don't do that through just winging it. He obviously had a plan. He knows what he's doing. Tactically, he's not stupid. He's been under Pep like before. He's learnt under him, and then he spent time with Wenger, spent time at Everton under Moyes. So he's obviously picked up stuff along the way. But I wouldn't so much as say it's down to tactics. Maybe he did say to Bellerin, push on. If he's playing wide, then the rest of us are going to be talking on. Like, that's well and good. It's not that I'd have a problem. That's between the manager and between the player. They know what the instructions are. But if you look at the goal, Bellerin's jogging back. His Carragher put it as like a marathon runner jogging back. On last night, Monday Night Football, I said he was just jogging back. As soon as the ball goes the other way, he sprints up onto the box, sprints up, puts the ball on. As soon as it's cleared back the Celso, he just sort of walks back again, just jogging back. Like, he's a right back, he's a defender. He should be busting his backside to get back. That there, and the Xhaka just completely forgetting where he was. If Partey goes off the pitch, then the centre halves should be shouting, Xhaka, you're the only man on there. So the centre halves and Xhaka should be working to get either Tierney at the sides or Bellerin, or else get, say, Saka or William to drop back on. It's stuff like that. No, it's not even tactics, it's just common sense.
The thing with Partey, I was surprised he played. I think Stephen, we were talking about it in the podcast, and Stephen was saying he heard he was injured until January, and all of a sudden there was this miraculous recovery this week. He was going to play. I think he could see, obviously, he was rushed back, and, you know, there's obviously reasons for that to happen, because obviously Arteta probably doesn't trust the likes of Xhaka in there, but he's possibly going to be without Partey for even longer now, and it was going to be a massive risk. Do you think that is something where experience comes into it, and he lacked experience there, be picking Partey and gambling on his fitness? And then obviously you can't look into the future, but do you think that was signs of inexperience, or do you just think that it's one of them ones. It's a 50-50. Could go either way. Party could have had a stormer, and then everyone would be saying, "Well, he's a genius." You think it's just one of them ones?
It all depends. It all depends on what he was told, how bad it was. No, obviously we don't know that. It could have been a case it wasn't as bad as feared. He could have took injections to be able to play through it. But it's probably viewed that as a match. They needed to get some sort of result, and they ended up it didn't pay off because they lost the match and they lost Party, and who knows how long that could be for. As you know, someone where I touch on the Christmas fixtures, we know Party during that, and you went there lying Jack and Ceballos, then could be a wee bit more of a dry spell.
It'll be interesting because I Arsenal some tough games coming up. Just going to look at that now, right? You were saying that you think Arteta's still the right man for the job, all right?
Aye.
You Arsenal fans have been chatting today, just mates as well, like, and they probably think I'm trying to be taking a hand at them, but I'm not. I'm just interested to see what they think. But they're all sort of saying the same thing. Arteta needs time. But you look at the league position now, 15th. They're not scoring goals. There doesn't seem to be any improvement, and creating good chances. They were tight at the back, but that looks to be unraveling at the moment. They didn't look tight against Spurs at all. Wolves could have scored for 3 or 4 against them as well the week before. You look at their fixtures coming up. How long does Arteta get? If they just keep losing and losing, it could be in a situation come the end of Christmas where they're on the bottom 3 or just outside the bottom 3.
As well as you say, if they're sitting the bottom 3, then it could be trouble. But if you look at how tight the league is, if they end up going on a 3-4 match winning streak, then they'll take them in the top half. That's how close the league is now. But I do think he's still the man for the job, because alright, you say he's not creating attacking chances, but he has to be as defensive as what he's been previously with a 3 at the back, because of the players that he has. He has to try and mask how poor some of them centre halves are. He has to try and he has to cover how bad the midfield is as well. That's why they have been so defensive.
I sympathise with him because I do think it's a huge, huge job. It's one that I thought when he went in there, it was a huge mistake giving him the job. Obviously, Arteta's not going to turn it down because it's a big opportunity at a big club. But I thought it was a really strange appointment. No one that Mourinho went to Spurs and Ancelotti went to Everton, and they were available in the time. And he had Allegri was out there. Maybe they tried to get these managers and they couldn't get them. But there had to be better people on paper for the job. But obviously, they possibly looked at the Pep thing and thought maybe he could do the same else. I don't know. But for me, it was a strange time because Arsenal, I thought, needed someone with experience, someone that they come on because of the situation that they run. But it's completely backfired for me. From looking, I actually said to Stephen on the podcast the other night, when they won that FA Cup, I thought this could be the return of Arsenal, and I really thought it could be that person then. I'm slightly surprised at how it's went this year. I still thought they were going to be in for a tough ride. Because if you actually look at the league form under Arteta last year, it wasn't that great. The cup run sort of masked over it a lot. But the games, he was getting results. Even look at this season as well. Against United, he got a big result. I was their first away one on the top 6 team in the league for 5 years. So there was obviously improvements there, but in our ways as well, there's a lot of things that's been swept under the carpet for me. And Arteta does get away with certain things. I don't know if it's because of the Pep thing but you look at Ole and Lampard, they always seem to be constantly under the microscope. I think Arteta does get away with a lot of stuff. But for me, if I was Arsenal manager or Arsenal's board now, I would be seriously thinking about replacing him. Because I think as well, see some of the stuff he's been saying over the last week or so, I think he realises now it's too big for him. I think he's starting to show his inexperience there. Arsenal's on a scrap now. So,
No, they are. Some of the stuff that he's saying on the press conferences and interviews, they're a wee bit questionable. When you see him, when he questioned Party.
Yeah, he said he's questioning how he's called out. Who's the other person he called out? He called out Pepe, didn't he?
I think he might have.
Even silly about he's left Ozil out. If you look at all these things that's going on, they've completely backfired. I think if you leave Ozil out and you're scoring loads of goals, nobody talks about it. But when you can't really create anything, and you've got a player with extra money, it's always going to be brought up.
See, I think Ozil, it's more a football with him. It's more a political thing.
I understand.
So it's above his pay grade, so it is when it comes to Ozil.
Exactly, but I think that's where a strong manager says, well, if you're not letting me have Ozil, you go and get me somebody else. And I think that's an our mistake that they didn't get a creative replacement. I mean, if you look at Arsenal squad before the start of the season, and if you say Ozil's not going to be in the team, you would look at it and think, where are we going to score goals? If Aubameyang gets injured, where are we going to score? Because Aubameyang was pulling them out of holes as well. We scoring good goals. But now it just seems they keep going our way. And I'm looking at their fixtures coming up. I'm not saying I will replace them now. I'm saying I will be getting something in place if the next few results don't go the way they're supposed to go. I mean, the talk is that they're going to stick with Arteta no matter what. I don't know if that means. No, I don't think they'll get relegated. I'm just saying. I don't think they're at. No, but you look at it, and if they lose the next 2 or 3 games, apparently they're still going to stick with him. They're going to go trust this process, and they're comparing it to Klopp and stuff. But I don't remember Klopp being in this situation before. So you look at it, you've got their fixtures coming up. Burnley at home on Sunday. I think that's now an absolute. You talk about 6 pointers. Arsenal need to win that game. If they don't win that game, I don't know. I don't know. For me, if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be saying, right, I have to change it now. Okay, it was great while it lasted, but we need to think about the season now to try and salvage it. Because Arsenal can't afford to keep going and keep sliding and then not being in the top 4 and end up, if you're finishing 5th, 6th, then going 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and you end up coming down to mid-table and relying on cups, it's a long way back. Then they've got Southampton at home, Everton away, Chelsea at home, Brighton away, and that picks them up to the end of the year. So them 5 games are tough games. Every game is tough when you're down at the bottom. If you look at them, like you've got Southampton on there who's flying, you've got Everton away who've done a lot better this year, and you've got Chelsea who's at home who've been flying. They've got Brighton away. They've lost their last 2 games away to Brighton as well. So no easy games on there.
No, there's no easy games, but as you say, sort of being compared to Klopp, Klopp did go through a few sort of rough spells at the start, but the whole point was that it wasn't his squad. It was going to take time to get used to what he was doing. Or he's a wee bit different with Arteta. It's a matter of getting the players on that suited the same way Klopp had to take a couple of transfer windows to get them on. But as you say, it's going to take a while to get through it. I think it is a matter of, if they have to get Europa League. They can't drop out of Europa League minimum. So I think, in my opinion, they do need to get that somehow. If they make a run Europa League this year, then they could get Champions League. It means more money in the summer. They could make 3-4 big signings then. But it does need to get some signings on over the next couple of windows to improve the side, because he's sort of making do with what he has at the minute, and it's not good enough. As you say, with Lampard and Solskjaer, sort of, they get scrutinised a bit more than Arteta. See, I think they've got better squads. They're getting back with the money. Yep. They walked into better squads they start off with, and they're getting back with more money now. You look at how much Chelsea forked out in the summer. You look at how much United are firing about. Jeez, Maguire, 80-odd million, Pogba, 80-odd million. How many 100,000 are they getting paid a week?
I agree with a lot of what you're saying there. They definitely didn't walk into a great team. United or Arsenal are definitely not a top 4 team based on the squad. You look at the arguments around them; they're definitely not a top 4 team. If they were to finish in the top 4, it will be a big surprise. But you can talk about maybe he hasn't got his own players on, but they're not a team that should be sitting 15th in the league. And that's you look at their team; they still got players like Aubameyang, like I said, Willian, Xhaka is an international, Partey, Gabriel. There's still a lot of good players on the squad. So that will be my argument towards it, that they can't be getting away with finishing mid-table, because it seems to me that Arsenal fans are that sort of. There's a lot of Arsenal fans are really behind them, and they'll just blame everything else. And there is a lot going on there, but for me, they're not looking at what Arteta can do as well. I mean, if you look at Emery was crucified, but Emery did do a lot better with worse players. If you look at, he didn't have Partey, he didn't have Gabriel, he didn't really have Pepe, because Pepe he was sacked after a couple of months. So there's been players that's come on. If you look at Arsenal's net spend over the last 6 years, it's higher than Liverpool's. On money alone, they've spent more than Chelsea as well. So it's not to say that the money hasn't been there, because I see a lot of people blaming the owner. I think the big problem they're blaming there is the lack of sort of direction from the owner. But in terms of money provided, you can argue against that. I think the recruitment's been very, very poor. I think that's what they need to look at. Liverpool's recruitment's been unbelievable. And then you look at Spurs over the summer, like they spent 20 million less than Arsenal. And I know the season's not over yet, but Spurs recruited in areas that they needed. Arsenal, they seem to spend it all on maybe 2 players. So and people's blaming them for not getting the replacements for creative point. But they would have to spend another 50 million on Awara as well if they did go and get him. So it was always going to be difficult to replace every hole in the team when if you're going to have to spend 50 million on a player. Maybe they want to get in different parts, and that's when you have to try and trust your scouting system the way Leicester have done it. Liverpool haven't exactly broke the bank for a lot of their sales. You know what I mean? So you have to rely on people around you, and I think that's what you could say about managers at Arsenal. They've been let down by recruitment and scouting.
No, it's, as you say, there's sort of been money there. Recruitment's been poor. I think that's what they're sort of going for now. There's been sort of restructuring behind the scenes and stuff like that, where they're trying to get something set in place, which is going to take time. It's going to be in place for a few years, and it's more, as you say earlier, it's more a project. So I think that's what they're going to keep Arteta on the job for. Keep the same sort of recruitment team. They've completely overhauled that way. They sort of, they overhauled it, but they sort of masked that as saving wages in the summer to give Aubameyang a 300 grand a week contract. But it's going to take time to get on, because, as you're saying, they spent it on 2 players. I would rather they spend it on 2 players every window than go and sign 10 players that are absolutely bang average. Because you look at Party, you look at Gabriel, they're 2 good players, 2 players who coming on with pedigree, like that they were wanting to be all our teams. Yeah. So if they do that, and then they've been linked with a Hungarian family, we try to pronounce his name, with Salzburg, for I think it's around Charles something along them lines.
Blasley, I think he called him Blasley.
They've been linked with him for about 25 million in January. So see if they go out and get him as a creative midfielder, that's on our whole field. And then come the summer, if they do happen to make a run Europa League, make the Champions League or something, they could have money to put on another 3 players, and then you could be looking on a completely different side next year. Like, I know we're chatting in if, buts, and maybes, but sometimes you have to take them chances.
I think you're saying what you're saying is right. They did recruit well in Party and Gabriel. I don't think Arsenal fans would take it back, but it's just our areas of the last couple of years that Arteta's not been there for as well. He has been dealt a bad hand, but I do think the players area has to do better. And you're on about getting time, and I understand every manager needs time, especially someone like Arteta. But I think because the results have been that poor now, I mean, you're talking about maybe finishing in the Europa League or trying to win the Europa League or trying to get them to the top 6 maybe this year now is a target. I think he can't really look beyond these next 5 games. I think if these results don't improve in the next 5 games, is whether they wanted to give them time or not, they'll have to look at it and make a decision on it. I think, well, do we risk letting this run on our month and then we could be even further behind? So I
get you in that way. I do get you in that way, where it could end up that you're looking at the point of view they could lose 5 matches. I don't think that's going to happen. Obviously you think it that way, you'd be sacked then, but they're not going to do that. I reckon they'll pick it up. If they say they go to Chelsea, get a draw, and they pick up say 3-hour ones over Christmas, then it's a completely different story come January.
Well, I think Robbie from AFTV said that he thinks he needs 3 wins to save his job. Thinks anything less than that. He said it's not even just that. He said, as you say, you talked about the league being tight. If there's if they still want to finish in the top 4 or top 6, if these next 5 games don't go, that's out of the question completely. And it's basically just focus on cups, because even if a new manager come in, they're that far behind, in the next 5 games. And people are saying it's a strange season. But if you look at Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs, they've all been pretty consistent. They've had a couple of blips in there, but majority of the time they've been winning games. United seem to have found a rhythm as well. We're going to be chatting about them. And City now have won back-to-back games, so it's not like you can just sort of hang about and say, well, everybody else is sort of losing 2-3 here. It's not really happening. So I think the Burnley game on Sunday's massive for them. Personally speaking, from a coaching perspective as well, us two obviously being young coaches as well, I'd like to see Arteta get more time and turn it around, taking the Spurs time out of it, because I do think he is. He could possibly be a good coach as well. I think the Burnley game's a must-win. I think if they don't win that, you're going to the next 4 games and you're needing you only won 3 of them. And I think for any team looking at a run like that would find it difficult to win 3 of them games. So I think the Burnley one's massive. If they won that, they might get a bit of confidence, turn it around. But to wrap this up, how do you see it going in the next 5 games? And not sort of predict each one, but give me a rough estimate of the next 5 games. How many points do you think Arsenal will get? And what will happen with Arteta, say, between now and May?
Uh, as you say, no, obviously you want to see him given time. I think obviously it's a results business at the end of the day when you get to that end of football, but you can't be chopping and changing managers every 6 months. You
Yeah,
know, you need to have some sort of continuity in it where, you know, they'll have to stick with him, I think, at some form. Obviously, 5 losses over Christmas, that's a game changer, but
well, that was a
it's
good
not
for
going
you.
to go like
That
that.
was a-
Like I'd say with Burnley this weekend, they're not exactly lighting it up at the bottom of the league. I'd say they'll pick up a one there. They have to pick up a one,
If you
even
could
if
have
it's a bloody
handpicked that
1-0,
game,
2-1.
you could have handpicked that game. Burnley don't score many goals. You know what they're going to be like. You know they're going to be defensive, but you gotta think even like going forward, they're not that great. So you nearly think if you could, Arteta had looked at the calendar and thought, right, one game they get, it would be Burnley would be up there, and that's the contenders they play. So you think it's a game below one
I think it's a game they'll win. I'd say they'll pick up at least 8 points. 8 points
in 5 games.
over a Christmas period. I'd say
And that would be a good
out of the
return.
5 games,
And it keeps them.
they have to pick up.
And football can change
They
really
have
quick.
to pick up the 8 or 9.
Go back over years where Ferguson was one game away from the sack. I think if you go back to Klopp, with them they finished on the top four. Klopp come on, I think it was October, didn't they? And then they finished was 7 for 8 that season. But then you think about it,
Uh,
that his first full season, it went the last day against Middlesbrough to get top four. I think
uh,
if Liverpool don't
Scoot
get top
fourth.
four, he could have been out of the job. So football can change pretty quickly. And then from that game against Middlesbrough, he's kicked on. He's got Champions League final. Then he's got he's finished second in City, won the Champions League that year, and then obviously won the league last year. Like so, things can change, and these things do take time. But what I would say is, just because you give a manager time doesn't mean it'll always work out. So I think it'll be looked at over the next few games. And honestly, and I don't want to rattle Arsenal fans, I think Arteta won't be there after these next 5 games. To be honest, I don't think it'll turn around. And this is because the players I think have down tools completely. Aubameyang's out of form. I just don't see where the goals are going to come from unless Aubameyang can maybe get back on the form, scores a couple of goals against Burnley, and then maybe he can get them out of trouble. Just think too many bad characters in that team, and I do think whoever comes in will struggle.
Well, that's a bold call, but I don't think he'll be out of a job. I agree with you there with Aubameyang. No, he's not putting on the goals, but he's not getting the service either. No, he's not getting it from midfield. They need to change the approach. So hopefully he sort of catches on, change the approach, and stays in the job.
If you look at the 5 games, I think they might beat Burnley. I can't see them beating Southampton at home. I think Southampton will play right under their hands. I think Arsenal will have to go for it, and Southampton will pick them off in the break. You look at Southampton's form of the last year. I think they're sitting fourth in the league in terms of results since last November. You've got Everton away. That'll be a tough game. They've struggled at Everton over the last couple of years.
Well, Everton's going through a poor wee run of form, to
They
be
are,
fair.
but I think that's a game that Everton will look forward to be honest. And then Chelsea at home, don't see them getting anything there. I think Chelsea will roll them over. And then Brighton away is always going to be a hard game. So
Right,
I think
right,
you
a
could,
bit harder.
I think you could possibly make a case for 2 results there, 2 home. You could beat Burnley and Brighton, possibly draw away at Everton, and then even draw at
I could
Southampton.
not see Southampton. I think they're on my shout with Southampton because under Arteta in the last one of the year or so, under or against like teams that come and press them. Like I've seen them against Liverpool City. Teams come up, press them high. Usually they have something they can play from a back well. They can split teams apart. They have some sort of routine where they play out from a goal kicks. And if Southampton come chasing up the pitch and they don't win the ball, then it could be matches where space and behind for the likes of Bama to make it.
I like that manager, Hasenhüttl, but I think he'll look at it and think that they need points. We'll let them come on to us, and then we'll pick them apart. So I think that's the way he'll look at it. Hey, it's a game they could win, but I think it's a very difficult game. I think it's a Southampton now. You look at Southampton, you think it's a different game than it was 2 years ago. I think everyone thinks when they play Southampton now, it's always going to be a hard game. Everton away is always hard for me. I think it's always, unless they're in a bad run. But I think Ancelotti, there has been a couple of bumpy results there, but I still think they'll have enough to give Arsenal a game. And then Chelsea is just a tough game for anybody at the moment. And then Brighton away. I think that's where all these problems started with Arteta and players was back at Brighton last year. If you look at the Guendouzi thing, so I think that's going to come on the Arsenal players' heads of going there too. And I think if they're going there off the back of a few bad results as well, it could be, it'll be a really confidence low team. Like so, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, they do turn it around a bit. I wouldn't like to see Arteta stay in the job, but I think it's going to be difficult in them fixtures.
Well, myself, I see him maybe kicking on after Burnley. It's Arteta, as we say, he's not stupid. He'll come up with, I think he'll come up with some sort of plan again, for some of their matches. Because you look at him, he went to United. Boys will try and say that they sat back, they didn't do nothing. They got a jammy chance. There's one image sticks out in my mind from that match. It was their front three was in the 18-yard box, pressing United from a goal kick. They'll try and say they play five at the back. I thought that Arsenal were good that match. Absolutely played United off a park.
But they've lost that since then. They didn't really press Spurs.
They have lost that, but they still have it on there. But I think, in my opinion, they still have it on there where they could pull it out for over these run of matches over Christmas.
Interesting, John. We'll have to look back at it maybe in the new year. Where they called the Magic Man and having all these results. You'll be popular with Arsenal fans.
Still not get a bet up.
No way. Here, going to chat about Arsenal's rivals. Obviously, Spurs, they won the game 2-0. I haven't really talked a lot about Mourinho and style, now completely different style to Arteta, sort of. Very, very defensive. Making it difficult for teams now. It doesn't really matter who they play as well. I've spoke about this before. Spurs will probably approach Palace with the same sort of tactics at the weekend. Palace probably won't be as naive and just go gung-ho, but I think Spurs will be very difficult. They'll make it difficult for Palace as well. I don't think it's going to be a case of where they just turn up and play a different way. I don't think that'll happen. So, style of play, what's your thoughts on it?
I think it's good, for the big matches. Obviously, against teams that'll sit back, you might find a wee bit of problems there. But Mourinho's enough experience. People are saying, I think you said yourself, that you don't see it lasting the season, that style of football. Mourinho's a winner. I've said since he came on that job that it was a brilliant appointment. I just felt like something's changed, when he got that Spurs job. It's like he sort of came back refreshed or something. So I think that Spurs could do it.
I actually think with Mourinho, he looks like a completely different person than he does at United. He looks happy. He looks confident. He looks composed. He looks as if he thinks he can do something with his team. I don't think it's just in fact. I think if you ask anybody now, confidence-wise, I think Mourinho is more confident than the fans are. I don't think the fans are completely buying on they are getting more on the each game. But I think if you ask Mourinho, he's talking about Spurs being a pony in the title race. But I think deep down he thinks he's got a good chance, and the fans are probably we're a pony.
He knows he's a good chance. You yourself, being a Spurs fan, you probably see with Pochettino won a few matches and a good run of form, but nothing ever sort of you sort of slip up at the end where it doesn't come through.
I can't think back over the years under any manager, Spurs doing like City, Chelsea, and Arsenal back to back. Where they drew away at Chelsea and then beat Arsenal 7 points in a row against the 3 teams they got. You always might say Spurs that beat a Man City. Next game they'll just crumble against Chelsea. Everyone will be talking about them, and then they'll just crumble. That was sort of Spurs under Mourinho. We see changing it slowly but surely. But I do still have doubts whether this can work. Mourinho, obviously an experienced manager. You said at the time, good appointment. At the time when he was appointed, I did think it was a 50-50 one. There was no way he was going to come back and do the same things he did at United because he knew it didn't work. You see him; he was very unhappy too. I don't think he just never seemed happy at all. Even when it was going well, he's smiling at Spurs. I think the way Spurs are set up with the players they have, it suits him as well. At Chelsea, he had a similar. He had Arjen Robben. Now he's got Son. Kane. He had Good Johnson, didn't he? And he just has the type of players. Lampard, Manfred runners.
Drogba, when he was there.
I think at United he didn't really have that. He was trying to do it with Ibrahimovic, and I just don't think. I think now he's got the players. He's got players like Højbjerg and Sissoko that just love defending. I think at United he had Pogba. He didn't want to defend. I think the players at Spurs respect him. They think we haven't really won anything. He's won everything. We'll do whatever you want. I think Paul Merson said if he tells Harry Kane to go over and stand on his head for 5 minutes, he'll do it because it just seems I think with Pochettino, he loved Pochettino. I think with Mourinho, he really respects him. You've seen that Amazon documentary where he took him under the meeting on the first day, and like he said, I'm going to make you explode. And I've never seen Harry Kane better in my life. So it's crazy. I didn't really see it happening.
What is it? It's something like he's had what was it, 15 matches with like 13 goals and 11 assists, or something along them lines. Kane this season, like he's completely took him on to a different level. I think, like, he's sort of like, he always loves these double acts, Mourinho, so it is. If you look at Son and Kane, he's got them two ticking. As you say about Højbjerg and Sissoko, they're two hard working midfielders that'll do the job for the team. And it gives, your Reguilon or your Lo Celso or, your Aurier, the sort of the space or the freedom that when they do get the ball, they can bomb forward and know that, they'll sit and cover for them. But Højbjerg, I think, is one of the signs of summer anyway.
For the money they paid for him, the impact he's had. I actually seen a video of him against Arsenal on Sunday. He was celebrating a tackle. So that's the character he is. And Mourinho loves players like that. That's just going to do the dirty work. And like I was saying, Stephen, if he does make a mistake and someone does get past him, he'll just do a wee cheeky foul and he'll know it's not a booking. He'll get away with it. He's that type of player that every team needs. And so
he's a winner.
He's a winner too. Yeah. He's been at Bayern Munich. He's obviously captain Southampton. And I think Mourinho said about him, he's going to be a great coach because he's actually been doing, I think that's with a team on the pitch as well and stuff. So he's obviously a good organiser. So high praise from Mourinho for Højbjerg. Just the one or two doubts I have is I don't think the style can hold up. I think teams will catch on to it, and it'll be interesting to see how he adapts. But you were saying about double X. I think Kane and Son's combined twice again there on Sunday, and that takes them only 31 Premier League goals, where one set up the other for a goal, and they're now only 5 behind Lampard and Drogba. Who, interestingly, Mourinho had at Chelsea. So if he keeps them two going, if he keeps them two fit, and they keep producing the numbers that they're doing, of course they're going to have a chance. But you just think his style heavily relies on 3 or 4 players there. Like if Højbjerg get injured or Kane get injured, Son get injured, how do they adapt the style? Like that's going to be the big thing for him.
No, I agree with you there. No, you sort of saying last year where Kane and Son, they were hit really bad by injuries. But if over the course of the season, it does need to have some form of a plan B. It's like, for me being a Liverpool fan, you see Liverpool sort of moving towards a 4-2-3-1 with Jota coming on and putting Firmino as a 10, stuff like that. They do need to have a plan B, but if plan A is working, why change their plan B? And as you say,
1-0 down in a game, how do they change it? Because against City, 1-0 up, controlled the game. Obviously 0-0 Chelsea, 1-0 up against Arsenal, controlled the game. So he manipulates games. I can even see it. See from the first half, Kane's been told just 1 free kicks. If there's no counter attack on, just go down. Back on their player, he'll foul you get a free kick, break up the game. And a team
are we going to touch on the back and on the players? That's dangerous what he's doing there, I think.
He's not making the offer.
It's illegal in rugby. I've seen that actually on Twitter. It's illegal in rugby. He's going to get somebody seriously hurt doing it.
See, this is the thing. It has been highlighted over the last few weeks. I think the Brighton one, where Spurs get the penalty, I think that one was a bit silly. I think the one there against West Ham, I think was Cresswell. That was ridiculous, in fairness, because he's had a look at him. I think the Brighton one was played out of proportion because Spurs got a penalty for it. I think the one at the weekend was it in the last minute with Xhaka, or Gabriel. Sorry, with Gabriel. But there was one in the first half where Xhaka actually tackles Kane with his head, and that wasn't really brought up. So, like the first minute, do you mind? Jamie Carragher did a bit last night where they lost the ball, and then Spurs got a free kick from outside the box. Xhaka just sort of went down with his head. The Kane's. So
no, he's getting a wee bit of a reputation about it. No, it's not. Obviously, Mourinho was telling him 1 free kick, stuff like that.
I hope no one gets hurt.
It sort of reminds you of Mourinho with the diving back in the Chelsea days. He used to hate playing them. He knew they were just going to be annoying to watch. They were just going to make a hit for.
All he cares about is winning. See this? You know what's sicking me when he came to Spurs? I asked him about Chelsea, and he said, "I don't care about Chelsea," and he doesn't because he's no affiliation to a club. If his Spurs sacked him tomorrow and Arsenal offered him to be away, then that's just the way he is. He's all about winning. And when he's with a team, that's his main aim. Like, talk about characters like Roy Keane. Roy Keane was always the same. Winning meant everything to him. And it's the same in Mourinho. Winning is everything. And he's not in this league. He finished second. He took that Spurs job because he genuinely thinks he can win the league with them. And you look at it this year, things are... My dad's got this sort of thing with Mourinho as well. He thinks that luck follows him wherever he goes. He goes, look at all these injuries. Look at all these cities going backwards. All these behind closed doors football suits Spurs because the fans aren't on his back with the defensive football. He's had all these injuries last year, so all these main players seem to be staying fit. Kane's obviously in the form of his life. Some of that's probably down to Mourinho as well, but things do seem to be going Spurs' way. You know, in terms of, I think my dad thinks that Mourinho sort of gets this wherever he goes as well. So he thinks, he's not saying, no, we're definitely going to win the league, but he just thinks that all the things that are happening around a Mourinho team are happening now with Spurs.
No, I wouldn't say Mourinho's lucky. If it happens once, you can say he's lucky, but for his track record and with Kane being the form of his life, that's 100% down to Mourinho. As you say on Amazon, you've seen him call him on, tell him what he was going to do, and you've seen that where he's changed his role rather than Harry Kane leading the line. No, he hasn't got the pace for it. All right, he gets the goals if they dominate the possession, he gets the ball around the box, but if he's dropping in, knocking the ball on the Son, knocking on the Bergwijn, Lascelles, whoever, then it obviously suits him a lot better. Mourinho's seen that, and that's why he's in the form of his life. And as we say, he's in over 20 goals and assists combined like this year.
The one thing I will say about him, and I'll give him praise for, because I still have doubts about him. The one thing I will give him praise for is I looked at that team against Man City, I looked at that result against Chelsea, and that against Arsenal. That was a team playing for their manager. They were prepared to do anything. They'll run through brick walls for him. I think you look at that team and you look about players and all, and there's no doubt Spurs were underperforming last year. But I thought Alderweireld was finished. I thought Dyer was useless. I thought Aurier was an awful right back. I thought Sissoko was useless. I thought Celso was average. Bergwijn didn't really see anything in him. You look at all these players. I thought Lloris was finished. They all have improved under him, for one better or worse. You know, maybe it mightn't be the improvements you're looking in terms of, I can hit the ball 30 yards. Sissoko's become a rock. Aurier's just making no mistakes compared to making loads of mistakes. Alderweireld looks like it was one there where Aubameyang got him one-on-one, and I really feared, and Aubameyang tries to cut on or drag at his left foot, and Alderweireld blocks it. So you talk about crosses, that was the one in the game. Aubameyang actually isolated him, and Alderweireld didn't panic at all. Dyer looks like a completely different player. Sissoko, I mean, he's one of the first names in the team sheet every week. He's got Ndombele playing too. He actually missed the game on Sunday, but he's like a different player. Celso's like a different player. Bergwijn's playing like an auxiliary right back. He's running up and down the wing. I didn't really think he was that type of player. He was signed as a flair player from Holland and being one of the best players in the Dutch league. Well, he's not really getting the attack at all. He's just defending and letting Kane and Son attack. So every player's improved under him. From what I can see, Lloris is as having his best season. He's not making mistakes. So he's obviously doing good stuff there. You know, there's obviously, I mean, you look at all that there's definitely good things going on. But it's whether or not they can be sustainable.
As you said, over the course of the season, there needs to be some sort of plan, and obviously if Son or Kane gets injured, you look at that bench, I would take it at Liverpool. You look at Lucas, you look at Bale, someday you might have Ndombele starting and Lascelles on the bench, vice versa. You might have Ben Davies, your backup left back on the bench. Some teams would absolutely kill for that. There's some serious quality in that bench that obviously you don't want to lose Son or Kane, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. Them players, Bale hasn't, I think he's happy enough just to play his golf, but he hasn't really been seen too much since he came, but he's still a quality caliber player to be bringing off the bench.
This is the thing, we look at players like Kane and Son and Bergwijn and Lo Celso and Ndombele. Lucas Moura when he's played, Bale, not going to really because he hasn't really played a lot, but these players are traditionally attacking flair players who sort of get free roles in teams. There's no free role in this team. Everybody works hard. You see Harry Kane on, I think, 5 or 6 times on Sunday, the second half, back defending, heading the ball out of the box against Arsenal. So everybody has to work hard. There's not even one player getting to relax at all. All right, Son's probably getting to stay up when we're behind the ball. But he still has to work hard as well and make runs and stuff. So everybody's running their bollocks off, and they're really buying into this. We're under Poch last year, and I love Poch, but I completely lost connection with his team. Seen a lot of players underperforming. Seen a lot of players losing heart. Now the fans are proud to support the team. Do you know what I mean? So he's doing a lot of good things, but whether it's going to be enough, it remains to be seen. Now, Christmas fixtures again. When I look at Spurs now, since we're talking about them, we got Crystal Palace away on Sunday, Liverpool away next Wednesday, which is going to be a huge game. Leicester at home on the 20th, Wolves away on the 27th, and Fulham at home on the 30th. I don't know about you, but some of them teams I've called out there looks like a difficult run of games as well. I don't know who picked these fixtures, but if you look at Spurs' fixtures since it's a really tough run of games, and you could European games sandwich them between them as well. So, them 5 games, John, how do you see them going for Spurs?
Well, as you say, like one against Liverpool. If I was a Spurs fan, I'd be looking forward to it, to be honest, because obviously Liverpool's missing a few players through injury and stuff, and Spurs are in a serious run of form, and Mourinho tactically he's been upped. So if I was Spurs, I wouldn't be scared of any of them fixtures. I wouldn't be surprised if they get 4-5-1s and a draw. They go unbeaten through it. I wouldn't be surprised with that if I was a Spurs fan.
Do you know what? People say to me, "Oh, Liverpool's big." I think the Palace one on Sunday's the biggest out of all of them, and it's not just because it's the next game, but it's before that Liverpool game. I think if Spurs won that, I'm expecting Liverpool. They're playing Fulham at the weekend, so I'm expecting them they won. I think if Spurs lose to Palace, they go into that game under pressure, because if they lose the Liverpool game, they're 6 points behind Liverpool in the space of 4 days. And I think given 6 points out of Liverpool, if they're serious about winning the league, that's going to be difficult to make it back, because you're going to lose a wee bit of form, concentration, confidence based on them 2 games. So I think winning on Sundays is going to be a priority. I don't even think Mourinho will, of course, he'll be thinking about it, but I think when they ask him, he'll know that this Palace game is a priority. He'll have one thought on it, but 99% of them, I would say, based on this Palace game, he knows if they won that, they're going to go into that game with Liverpool top of the league. And even if they go there and draw, they're going to come out of that game still level with Liverpool. And that's the team Spurs are going to be looking at, you know what I mean? So I think one on Sunday is going to be key, and then Liverpool game is going to be a cracker. Maybe not entertaining, but it's going to be fascinating tactically.
It'll be good to watch. It'll definitely be a good match to watch. But as you say, obviously Mourinho, he definitely has one eye on that Liverpool match. 100% he's planned it. Where he can maybe rest 1 or 2 players. Where he can bring them off a bench on Sunday. Well, I suppose Spurs are 3, aren't they, in the Europa League?
Aye, not if they play us
right. I'll probably look at it in the view where he can rest a few players midweek, and then same with Liverpool, they can rest players in Europe, so it'll in turn mean that the 2 players can, or the 2 teams can play back to back there, no problem. But as you say, he's definitely has one eye in that Liverpool match, there's no doubt about it. But he's definitely not forgetting about Palace. He's not going to be thinking about 2 losses and being 6 points behind. Spurs will be coming out of it, I'd say, in good shape.
I think the Liverpool game's going to be very difficult to go there and win. We're going to chat about it, but they have got a really good record at home. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes' time. But so going there, you have to go there and think. Obviously, not think we definitely can't win, but go there and be reserved and think, well, if you come out there with a draw, that's a good result. So you're going to be looking to win the hour games. And if they were to come out of that spell, if they were to go to Palace and win, say draw with Liverpool, beat Leicester at home, beat Wolves away, and beat Fulham at home, I think any Spurs fan then would be saying, well, based on them results, you factor in the last 3 as well, they have a chance. But too early for me when you're obviously trying to look at it and think, you're trying to get the league now for me is starting to take a bit of shape. So you after 11, 12 games, you have to start looking at where you're going to end up. But on these next 5 games, if you're still up there and you're coming on the January and you're sitting second or first, you're going to be thinking we have a chance, aren't you?
If you're a Spurs fan, it's like Liverpool a couple of years ago, you're sort of on around there Christmas and you start to get a wee bit excited. But as you say, it's a long season, it's close, a lot of things can happen, but you'll definitely be getting a wee bit excited knowing that you're on around there, I would say, because them matches, you wouldn't be surprised to come out of it with 4 or 5-1s.
I think a lot of people too are looking at, it's a strange season, anything could happen. To me, it's not really. I know there's no fans and stuff, but to me, the results haven't been that strange. Or there's been a couple of ones there where you think, but that's going to happen in every season. You look at the top 3 at the moment: Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea. They've been very, very consistent. Liverpool and City the last couple of years have set a new standard. To me, they were strange seasons. Like if you look at Liverpool's return and Spurs' return after 11 games. It's pretty much where title-winning teams be after 11 games if you take out the last 2 years. You've got 24 points after 11 games. You've only dropped what's that? 9 points You only dropped 9 points in your first 11 games. I think Liverpool and City over the last couple of years have set new standards. But I think if you're looking at it this year, I still think you're going to need probably around 88, 90, 91, 92 points. They want it. I don't think it's going to be that far behind what Liverpool and City have been doing. Like Liverpool won up to 100, or City won up to 100 points, and Liverpool won up with 99. But if you look at the teams that finished second that year, they both finished with 81 points. United finished with 81 points, and was it not Liverpool? I lost my train of thought now. Where are we at?
No, as you're saying, like the Liverpool and City teams the last couple of years have just been absolute freaks of nature, not because when do you?
Last year, City were 81 points. So it goes to show you that you might only need 82 points. They won it. You know, it's not necessarily that you're going to need 100. The one reason that's obvious is the Liverpool City, the year they went toe-to-toe, and there was obviously 98 and 97, wasn't it, they finished on? So I don't think it's going to end up like that, but I still do think you're going to need possibly late 80s, early 90s, so it's not going to be an easy league to win. And I still think this season you might see a couple of teams and towards the end.
No, you'll need to be hitting the 80s, in my opinion, anyway, you know, to be getting around the league. But it's that tight and it's that competitive that who knows what can happen between now and the end of the season.
Definitely. So moving on, Liverpool, your team, John. I'm interested to see what you think on this. For me, they've been very impressive this season. You can look at some blips on there. For me, it's been just one of them ones where some of them games they've just not had much luck on them. You think about the Everton game. I'm not really going to count the Villa game because it was a one-off. You look at the Everton game, 2-2. They battered Everton on the day. Van Dijk obviously injured, but Pickford should have been sent off. Liverpool's goal at the end, in my opinion, should have stood. That offside rule is it's a disaster. But if you look at that freeze frame, I mean, looking at it time after time on the day, and I still to this day think it's onside. So that should have counted for me. Liverpool should have got 3 points there. The City game away from home, you can look at that and go, we were brilliant for 20 minutes, but probably based on the whole game, Liverpool in the end were lucky to come out with a point because City missed a penalty, missed a couple of chances as well. But if you look at that, Liverpool have got a point more than they've got there in the last couple of years. They've been easily losing there. So that's probably a point game. And then you look at the Brighton game where, again, things went against them and then a penalty at the end. So for me, Liverpool aren't that far away from where they were last year in the last couple of years. Even with injuries, they're still a strong team. Let's look at this result from Sunday. Now, I thought going on it was going to be a tough game. I think Liverpool had won it. I think I done 2-1 on my predictions, but I thought it would be tough because Wolves are never an easy game. But Liverpool just completely took them apart. I think the first half was kind of tight, but as soon as Liverpool turned it on, it was the game was over very quickly, and Wolves really had no answer. So, and if you put that result in the context, Wolves absolutely battered Arsenal like before. So these are no mugs, and Leicester the same as well. He's been up there this season. Liverpool destroyed them as well. So, how do you see the drop off? Has there been much of a drop off for you, or has it just been a couple of wee things things that went against them?
It's a couple of wee things like you say about the VAR at Everton. I just remember the Brighton one the other week with Salah. Like they measured the line off of his right foot instead of his left hip. So they measured his left hip, then he was onside. Or was it the defender, sorry? It was the defender measured off his right foot rather than his left hip. His left foot's obviously going to be further towards the net that's going that way than what his right foot is.
On this last week, I said, look, Klopp sort of went on about fixture congestion, but Liverpool didn't really play that well. I know there was things that went against them, but in general,
Liverpool are good old end up they done deserving of him.
But at the same time, I think how many games last year did Liverpool not play well and still won them? You can't play well every single week. So again, Liverpool not playing well away from home. Can't really say there's every game last year away from home they played brilliant. So you're going to have games where you're off it, but good teams still find ways they won. And again, I still think you were going to find a way last week until the VAR intervened. So again, even for not playing great, you were still repeating the old habits of still going to win the game. So for me, there's not been much of a drop-off. I'm just very interested to see what you've heard, because a lot of people seem to think, Liverpool aren't as good as they were over the last couple of years, so it'll give all our teams a chance. I think that Spurs have improved, Chelsea have improved, and that's why they're up there, not because Liverpool have got worse. You know what I mean?
It's like City have dropped off. Obviously, Liverpool's not, going through the same thing. They've been where they're looking to go a season undefeated. That's been ended early enough this year. But as you say, we still being up there at the top under Klopp the first year or two. We were used to matches like Dortmund 4-3 and just high score matches left, right, and centre. But the last, say, 2 years, where they've been up in the high 90s in the points, won the Champions League, won the league, there's been matches now where a 1-0 grinding it out, where they've been, all right, they haven't been the worst team in the world to watch, but for Liverpool standards, they've been absolutely brutal. But they still find a way to grind out the one, and that's the way they've been under Klopp. Like, no, if Liverpool go 1-0 or 2-0 down, you're not worrying that much about it. You sort of think they still have it on them. They come back.
Mentality, isn't it?
I
think Carragher said their favourite scoreline's 2-1. I think last year they won 17 games 2-1 in the league. So again, 17 games they won by 1 goal. And again, you could say, oh, lucky. There's probably some games maybe they were, but again, one of them becomes a habit. And when you're on 17 games 2-1, there's always going to be spells in the game where it's tight. But if you think back to the Mourinho teams over the years, very rarely, apart from maybe that year Man City won the league where you had them 100 points, where they were winning like 4 and 5-0 every week. Very few teams just coast teams over on their way to a league title. Even if they do won by loads of points, there's loads of games on there where 1-0, 2-1s. How many years did Ferguson do it? Score last minute goals in the last minute, they won games. Do you know what I mean?
That's the sign of a big team.
That's exactly, and that's what teams do. So again, people's going, oh, they're not playing that well. But I looked at games last year and Liverpool were still winning them, and they weren't really playing that well. So it's not new to me, and I still think Liverpool is very much the same team they've been over the last couple of years. You could look at injuries, yes, which makes it even more impressive. But I'm not expecting, like, if Liverpool finished with 99 points last year, I'm still expecting them to be within 9 or 10 points of that at worst. I can't see them.
I don't know about the 90s, like, but I would say they'd be up there, obviously injury dependent, because we've had the whole back five out injured. Alisson's out again. Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson, Keita, Ox. Who was it, Mane or Salah with the COVID? Like, you constantly have players that are out injured, and Liverpool are still coming through. Like,
I know I don't know what kind of person you are in terms of like belief, but do you think there's somebody out there that's trying to prevent you from not winning the league this year? Like a force. All these, like one of these people believes in fate and stuff, because you've got all these injuries that's been happening, and you look at some of the injuries as well, and like freak injuries, like the Gomez one's a freak, the Van Dijk one's a freak. There's been muscle injuries in there. You could probably look at maybe there's something we could do in terms of training, reduce the training load. Because Klopp does demand a high level in training, and over the last few years, it's bound to catch up at some stage. But you can look at them freak injuries. You look at all the COVID. There's no team in the league that's been worse affected by COVID. You could maybe look at Newcastle now, where they had to shut the training ground down. But in terms of injuries, in terms of COVID, every week there's been somebody dropping out, and a lot of it's been coming in international duty as well. It's not really been Liverpool's fault. It's been coming back from international stuff. So, and then you look at all the VAR things that were. And I think as well, and you might disagree, there was things over the last couple of years that went Liverpool's favour with VAR. But this year, it seems to be really against them. Every week, it's apart from the one on Sunday with a Wolves penalty, which was correctly overturned, but some of the ones with these offsides and the penalties and all, they seem to be going against Liverpool now.
As you say, fate and all that. I think Klopp sold us out that devil or something for the last 2 years that we've had. But now, as you say, what was I going to say? Jesus, went blank. But with the whole COVID thing, the players of Liverpool just seem to be getting hit with. Salah with his brother's wedding, stuff like that. And I just think that it just feels as if there's something sort of not going right this year. Liverpool, for some reason, she's being hit left, right, and centre with injuries. And
I remember thinking last year too. Same thing was happening with the injuries. You just sort of think every game something's going to happen. Whereas Spurs fans, of course, are going to think, oh, what happened if Kane gets injured? But realistically, at the minute, we're not even thinking about it, because we're seen to be getting the run of the ball with injuries. Whereas when you're getting worse, you sort of think, oh fuck, he's going to be next. You know what I mean? So it's one of them ones where it's just you get seasons where things go against you. Don't seem to be going like that way through. But the biggest credit you could give Liverpool is they're still joint top. They're still level with points with Spurs at the top, like, and if Liverpool get into the last 10 games and they're sitting level in points with a team, you'd fancy them every day of the week because of the way they are.
If Liverpool, if they can stay in it, then on around then some players might come back. There's talk of Van Dijk maybe coming back a wee bit. Rather not being out the whole season, come back a bit early. Then hopefully they can pick up at the end of the season.
Right, so I'm looking at your next 5 games, right, over Christmas.
Mm.
It's Fulham away, Spurs at home, Palace away, West Brom at home, Newcastle away. Now, looking at that, I'm seriously worried because I'm thinking they're going to take close to a maximum. That's a favourable run of games, especially over Christmas too. And Liverpool played a lot of the big teams anyway, so they've only got Spurs left to play, and they've played like Leicester, Wolves, Everton, so they've had tough enough fixtures. So it could Fulham away, Spurs at home is obviously the big one in there. Palace away, West Brom at home, Newcastle away. So looking at that, I'd say you're pretty happy with how the fixtures have panned out over Christmas.
I knew we had the tough run to start. I was sort of surprised when I looked at it earlier. How favourable on paper they look anyway. Because Fulham, you would like to think that you're getting 3 points off that. Spurs, that'd be a tough one. If you come out with 3 points out of that, absolutely brilliant. And as you say, who knows how you do at the weekend against Palace, but if Liverpool can come away with 3 points against Spurs, then that's brilliant. But then we have to go away to Palace. You have to play West Brom at home, who are, even though they're per this year, West Brom over my lifetime anyway, I've always seemed to be like a bogey team for Liverpool.
Maybe us too. I think we had a really bad. They had good records against Spurs and Liverpool. I think we beat them there on this season 1-0 away, scored it on. But as a game, I think we had lost, or we hadn't. Not that we'd lost. We drew your last 4 games against them or something, and we'd lost the game on there too. So we just had a really bad record. I think obviously the West Brom result, the Colo Touré one, where he's probably was one of the reasons he's done win the league that year. He just back passed it, and then the one with Klopp, the 2-2. So you think about West Brom, it's not been an easy game for you. And do you know what? I'm not saying you're going to drop points, but Fulham away, I think Fulham's a harder team they played than they were a few weeks ago. You look at some of the results and performances they have. I think this sort of can happen to teams that do get promoted. See at the start, they're a wee bit inexperienced and naive, and they get found out. In terms of not even just ability, but in terms of I think Mourinho talks about being streetwise. I think these teams, as they get more games in the Premier League and their players get more games, they do become a bit more streetwise and they do learn sort of how the Premier League can work. So I think Fulham away is probably a harder game than it was if he's having in September. Still a game you expect they won. But you look at them, they went away to Leicester and won. They were very unlucky against Everton at home a few weeks ago. Who did they play at the weekend there? Man City were beat 2-0. It wasn't like they were getting smashed 5-6. So I do think it is a harder game than it was, but it's still a game you expect they won. So looking at that there, you still expect a good points return, wouldn't you?
100%. I would say you'd be looking for 13 or 15 points out of that. With Spurs being your only one where you drop a point, as you say, Fulham be a bit harder. But if you go away to Fulham and drop points, whether it's a draw or a loss, you'll be rating yourself. No, it's a sort of match you can't be losing if you're expecting yourself to win the league.
I think coming out of Christmas, he's well be top of the league, to be honest. I think even if Spurs come out of that, they're 2 points behind Liverpool, they'd be happy. Anyway, I think if they were within 3 points with end games they have, because Leicester and Wolves is on there with Liverpool as well for Spurs, tough games, and they're all after an hour. So it's we've got Liverpool, we've got a quarter final in the cup, we've got Leicester, we've got Wolves as well. So we've got really tough run of games. So I think if we come out of that period 2 points behind, that would be a good period for us, because I think January's pretty good for us. We've got used at the end of January again. So we actually play each other quite quick. I think when the season starts again, the second part of the season starts, Liverpool and Spurs play each other in the first game. So like the 20th game. But I think the next 4 games after that are against teams that are on the bottom half of the table. So that'll be where Spurs will be maybe trying like a 2 points back. But be interesting. Liverpool will definitely be thinking we'll be in the January top of the league, and anything less, as you say, they would see it as an opportunity must. I'm going to chat about Chelsea's fixtures, because they're up there at the top of the league at the moment. What do you think of Chelsea?
I don't know. I still think that they haven't sort of. All right, they've got your man Mendy, and no, I don't think that they've sort of improved defensively as on personnel-wise. I just think they've got through it because of attacking signings. Because they're saying Mendy's kept the most clean sheets in the league or something, but he's faced like really low amount of shots. So it's not that he's keeping them.
In the Leeds game, he just first goal, he just charged out and left Bamford. He left Bamford all the time. They would go around him and score.
That was an experience showing that one.
I think as you say, Thiago Silva's made a big difference. Chilwell, I thought when he signed was a really, really good signing, But in terms of left backs, I didn't really know much about Reguilon. he was at Sevilla. But I was thinking for left back, I'd love Spurs to sign Chilwell at the time. So I thought getting Chilwell was a really, really good signing. Outside of Robertson, I didn't really see anybody else in the league that was good as him. So getting him on was good. Reece James has really surprised me. He's went on to another level. Midfield, they seem to have got a good balance in midfield now as well. Ziyech coming in there, I think he's quality. Pulisic has come back. Werner, he misses a lot of chances, but he Chelsea's creating that many, still scoring. I think if he's in the Spurs team, he struggles. He's not ruthless. But he seems to be scoring goals. Giroud seems to have a renaissance. He seems to be flying again. Everything at Chelsea's going well, and I have to say the way they're playing. If you look at Spurs, you look at Liverpool, probably not playing as good as Chelsea. They're still winning games, but Chelsea seem to be dispatching teams week in, week out. It'll be interesting to see when they do have a wee bit of up, if they can still repeat still being able to win games playing ugly. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's what I'm sort of worried about Spurs for their sake anyway. Not from a Liverpool point of view, but from their sort of point of view, that Chilwell, as you say, be a good signing, and he sort of took a wee bit of a dip before he came, so it was a wee bit of a risk paying that amount of money for him, that he had that dip in form. But now that he's been brought on, and obviously he's played well for them, Thiago Silva, he's got that experience, he'll be passing it on and stuff, but he could be found out in some big matches. If you do get somebody with a bit of pace up against him, or Reece James is bomb forward, then I wouldn't fancy his chances.
I think I see a lot of teams do with Spurs at the Chelsea, but they'll try it because they've got more tank Carragher touched on it last night in terms of attacking ability up front. Not too many teams that can match them. And you talk about squads. If they play Pulisic, Werner, Havertz, and say Ziyech, they still get Mount on the bench. They'll have Abraham on the bench, Giroud on the bench. They've got loads of attacking players. They can change to come on. So I think you'll see a lot of teams sitting back against them. So I think that's why as well you're not seeing a lot of teams getting joy. The keeper's not doing too much because there's so many teams under pressure against them. I think Conte's having his best spell since the year they won the league. Seems to get his form back. So I think there's a lot going well at Chelsea, man. I think if any team's going to challenge you this year, it'll be Chelsea. I think they've got the squad to do it. Be interesting to see where it can be continued, but looking at it, for me, I think they're a bigger shout than Spurs are.
No, that's you just trying to be honest, trying to save face. You're trying to save face that one. I think Spurs are a better shout than Chelsea are, to be honest.
I'll see on that one, but look, their games anyway are Everton away, Wolves away, West Ham at home, Arsenal away, Villa at home. And you look at that, that's probably a difficult run.
They're not easy.
Not easy. The 3 away games in general: Everton away, Wolves away, Arsenal away. I know I said that fancy to beat Arsenal, but Chelsea will still go on that. I think it's a difficult game.
Still a derby.
Well, exactly. Wolves away is never easy. Everton away is never easy. And then West Ham at home's been flying this year, and Villa at home, Villa's been flying. So there's 5 teams there that all think we can get a result. So if they were to come out of that there in a really strong position, you might change your mind, John. But as I say, when I looked at the fixtures today, I thought this is Liverpool's chance. They try and maybe put a bit of a gap between these two teams chasing them. If you look at their fixtures, and they're harder than Liverpool's by a million miles, So.
No, they definitely are harder. Liverpool's had the hard start, so if Liverpool put a wee bit of breathing room between them, then happy days there. But I do think that Chelsea, there are 5 matches there where they could drop points, in my opinion, anyway. And I do think that's where sort of massive teams have had a wee bit of an easier start than Liverpool. And if they do start to drop points here, it's going to, once you get to the halfway mark, it'll start to tell us truth.
Completely, and as you say, it could be the fact that Liverpool have tougher games. Maybe there's not a big gap on the table between these teams, but definitely I think if them Spurs and Chelsea come through them games, Liverpool will probably be a lot more worried because they'll be thinking, well, we're going to have to be as consistent as we were last year because these teams aren't going to be dropping too many points. But definitely interesting. Now, we move on. Going to chat about your second favourite team, Man United.
I should have Zach Little.
Zach Little, if he's watching, you might get a short talk here, but no, we have to be honest. Zach made some big statements on this show a few weeks ago. Now, again, I think United, he could probably look stupid on a Tuesday, and by a Saturday, he looks like a genius because United can be that inconsistent. Be very interesting to see how they get on tonight because that could determine, where United fans are really, because you can look at league form, but if they were to go to the Champions League tonight, that would be a big blow. But hey, it's 9 straight away ones in the Premier League, and again, Bruno Fernandes was the star of the show for me. Come off the bench, United didn't look like they had much about them at all. He comes on, changes the game completely. Um, Zach said he was one of the. Well, I didn't say he was one of this. He said he was the best player in the league. And he said about stats like since he's came to the league, there's nobody that's been involved in more goals. Like he said, Kane was second. So has he got a point? Has Bruno up there? Is he the best player in the league? And as United, I think he said United have an outside chance of winning the league. So would you agree with that, or do you think Zach's delusional?
No, he's just enjoying Liverpool too much. So he's over there at uni. But at United, I don't think they're only a shout to the league, to be brutally honest. I'm not saying that to be biased. Like Bruno,
stop you right, because everyone will be a lot of people thinking the same. But I'm just going to play devil's advocate here. I'm going to say, why can they not win the league? Because nine straight away ones isn't easy. And I know I'm picking back last year as well. They played 5 away games this year in the league. And if you look at them, Everton away, Newcastle away, West Ham away, Brighton away, and there was another one too. But they've been 5 places that aren't easy to go. Southampton away was the other one. Sorry, Southampton away, and they've been very strong at home. So they've won them 5 away games. Bruno has been, whether you like it or not, he is up there in terms of goal involvements. There's nobody been higher. I'm not saying for me you shouldn't judge a player based on that alone. But picking that in the account, he's definitely been he's turned United around completely. So based on that, and they're sitting with 19 points. So they're 5 points behind Spurs and Liverpool, but they have played a game less. So they could be within 2 points if they won their game in hand. So why can they not win the league?
They're too inconsistent. It's down to that. Too inconsistent. As you say, they could be brilliant midweek, where they go and beat Leipzig 5-0, and then by the weekend they're getting battered themselves. But I think they're too inconsistent to be up there. Bruno is a brilliant player. I'm not saying he is poor whatsoever, but they say that he's a best midfielder, a best player outright in that league is absolutely ridiculous. Like, does he forget Kevin De Bruyne exists midfielders?
I think as well. So, he's coming in players based on. I know it's not really a short space of time, but it's been less than a year. He's taken January to December last year. You have to be judging it over 3 or 4 years consistency. You know what I mean? So, and obviously, exactly. Bruno's not in the league that long, so we can't really say, you can't really judge him on that. But you have to be looking at players that's been doing it in the Premier League for 3 or 4 years, and De Bruyne has been doing it. Harry Kane's been doing it. Salah's been doing it. Mane's been doing it. Van Dijk's been doing it. So there is a lot of players you would put on there in front of him in terms of consistency. But you know what? You're right in saying they are inconsistent, because if you look at the Champions League, they could go out tonight, and if they go out tonight after beating Leipzig 5-0, after winning away in Paris, and then they go and lose to Istanbul, that shows you what kind of team they are. He just never get. They could be 2-0 down at half time to Southampton, come back and won 3-2. They were outplayed for 60 minutes against West Ham, but West Ham don't take their chances, and then Bruno comes on, and they were clinical. You have to give them that. They were clinical, and they won 3-1. They're very hard team to predict. And I don't mean just on one game. They could be awful for 30 minutes and then completely turn it on. It's just.
I think it was Gary Neville. Gary Neville put it right I think it was at the weekend, where he said that they're just too inconsistent. So it's not even from week to week or match to match. It's half to half. And that match at the weekend was perfect example, because they were absolutely brutal in the first half, come out and batter West Ham then. But they're just too inconsistent that way. And with Bruno Fernandes, obviously he's banging in the goals and stuff like he's getting the stats there. But I've said this to Zach, that if you're playing a 3-man midfield, between Man City and Liverpool, Bruno doesn't get on it. But
who does he have on then?
Doesn't he on a 3-man midfield?
Maybe 3 players.
Who would I say? We actually put the argument where it was just for Liverpool City. It was Thiago, Henderson, De Bruyne, or else Fabinho, Henderson, De Bruyne.
Fabinho has to be on. Fabinho would definitely be on my team. It'd be any team in the league for me, because you need that solid base. De Bruyne for me gets on any team in the world, so I think that
100%
gets on. And they are one that's difficult because I think if you've got Fabinho on there, you can probably play with 2 flair players. Henderson, yeah, he's been consistent, but for me,
Henderson slept on. Henderson's underrated.
I like Henderson. A lot of Liverpool fans. You ask him, I'm a big fan of Henderson. I think he's a great leader. And he does. People sometimes think he's just a leader. I think he's got quality. Like you see some of his passing, his range of passing is quite good.
Unbelievable.
He's improved a lot over the years as well, and he just seems to be getting better with age. I think when Liverpool don't play, they miss him just as well. So not just in terms of his leadership, but his ability on the ball as well. I think Wijnaldum's pretty underrated. But
Yes.
for me, based on quality, and I'd be a snob, I would put Bruno on there. Like I would put him on.
For me, I said it was a 4-2-3-1, and you're looking for a 10, then he gets on there. But if you're looking for a 4-3-3, he doesn't. Well, that was what the argument was way back Zachary.
Hey, it's down to interpretation. If you're looking for a bit more solid, you probably have to pick Hamor De Bruyne, and you'd pick De Bruyne. Liverpool kind of play with 3 midfielders, but they don't really have a number 10, do they? It's a strange the way they play.
The only person that's sort of been playing 10s, but Firmino, when they went to 4-2-3-1.
Man City, that sort of number 10 sort of gone. Well, football was more like a 4-2-3-1. Most teams now play a 4-3-3. If you look at even Man City, they played David Silva and De Bruyne with Fernandinho. So they didn't really have a number 10, but they had like 2 creators. And then you look at United as well, and another player that we're going to chat about, creates more headlines every week, is Pogba. He sort of plays on there too, we Bruno at times. But anyone that hasn't watched, I'm sure they have seen it. But Mino Raiola, Pogba's agents, come out and said his time at United is going to be over. I think he said something about him not fitting under the style, and that Ollie doesn't rate him as a player, and United should be playing the Pogba strengths. But Paul Merson said something that was quite good today on his piece, his article. He said if Pogba wants to make it all about him, he should go and play snooker, an individual sport, because you're playing a team sport, so it can't be all about you. And he said that United aren't that defensive. I'm sure the times they do be, but if you look at Spurs at the moment, they're far more defensive, and you don't hear Kane and Son complaining about the style of play. You just have to buy into it. Now, for me, Pogba, I think Carragher summed it up last night. He's more hassle than he's worth. We're back to square one again. Happening all the time. I think Carragher said he was the most overrated player in the league. I think he's definitely up there, because everybody knows he's got quality. Don't think anyone would sit on this podcast and argue he's not a good player in terms of what he can bring to a team. It's too few and far between. He downs tools too much. His attitude's shocking, and he does seem to turn it on when he wants to turn it on. It's ridiculous. It's stuff. One good game against West Ham, they show why he's a good player, and then his agent puts. It's almost like it was premeditated. West Ham, his agent puts that out, and then before a big game, before a massive Champions League game as well. You know what I mean? It's just not right.
I wouldn't have him anywhere near that squad if I was Solskjaer, because to come out with that right before a big Champions League match where they need to get a result is beyond a joke. Because
we're actually doing this live at the moment, like, so I'll see if you'll watch back if you're recording. But I wonder if he's in the team. The team is about now.
Well, you could check out, but with Pogba, his agent is obviously not going to say something without him knowing, and if he does, come out and say something without Pogba knowing, Pogba has to come out and, sack the agent, as Carragher put it last night. But there's absolutely no way the agent comes out with something so big and so controversial before a big match without Pogba knowing. And if you're the manager, that's a no-go. It has to be gone.
I think Neville was saying Pogba would definitely would have knew about it. There's no way he goes and does that off his own back. So for you, would you start him in this game tonight, or would you leave him out?
Not a hope. I wouldn't have him anywhere near. They've actually seemed to, all right, they dealt well at the weekend, but they seem to be playing better without him.
Would you be quite honest? Would you be surprised if he started?
Oh, I'd be very surprised if he's even on the squad. Well, maybe on the bench and not get on, but if he plays any part in the match, I'll be very surprised.
Bruno as well playing. Bruno's both playing.
Are they both playing?
McTominay, Matic, Pogba and Bruno at the top of the diamond. I'm very surprised at that.
Can't believe that. That just makes Solskjaer look like an absolute mug.
Well, if they lose the game, I'm sure it's going to be brought up. But if he thanks to House with a performance. But obviously, he would have spoke to Pogba, obviously, since it's come out. But Pogba hasn't really made any announcement since it was out yesterday. So there was plenty of time to make an announcement on it and say, well, my agent's completely fabricated the story. I'm 100% coming to the United. And whether he is or he isn't, for me, you're under contract at that club. And whether he's leaving in the summer or not, he should be coming out and giving 100% and saying he's behind the team and told them to come out eve of a big game and say his agent say his time's up. I just can't. It's shows you where that agent thinks he is, that he can come out and take on a club like United on an agent like.
But I'm not surprised because it's Raiola, because you look at his track record, it's all about money. He looks to move his players from club to club and earn himself a payday more than anything. But
this is an art.
I wouldn't have him anywhere near that team.
10 years ago, nobody would have knew an agent's name. Never mind, everyone knows about Cage Arakan, Mina Raiola, all these names now in football, all these agents' names, George Mendes. So that's a worrying thing for me when these agents are like almost running football at the moment. They can just come out and say what they want. Mina Raiola made a statement. If he made a statement 20 years ago, it wouldn't even have made the news because nobody would have took him on.
See, I think Rail's actually the reason that Pogba's let go in the first place. Like, Ferguson wanted absolutely nothing to do with him because of Raiola, and that's why he was let go. So the fact that he's back at the club, Ferguson, I would say he wouldn't be too happy.
You know what? I think a lot of United fans for the first time really now have, after yesterday, I was on the Talk Sport yesterday, and there was a fair few running on saying that they stuck off for a Pogba before, but there was no way back from this. So I'm really surprised that he's starting tonight. It's a funny game, football, but if it was they score the equaliser tonight, they'll be celebrating it like.
If I was a United fan, I still wouldn't be forgiving him. No. I just think that's unforgivable.
So obviously we chatted about that, but the main thing I wanted to ask you, do you think Ollie's improved United since he's been there? Do you think they've got better, or there's a lot of problems there that haven't really been addressed, and a lot of times it's just peppering over cracks? For example, for 60 minutes and then just getting out of jail with a couple of goals. You think it's more they're just riding their luck?
They are riding their luck, in my opinion. I think they're just sort of papering over the cracks. You look at the team, there's individual quality. Like, you look at Greenwood, Cavani, Rashford, Fernandes, Pogba, Telles, De Gea, Van de Beek doesn't really get us stuff. Like, there's some absolutely brilliant players there, but they just seem to be sort of papering over the cracks. Some days that they'll come out and they'll look like world beaters. Other days they'll come out and they just look like they haven't a notion how to play football.
I think at times there's not much of a team there. Then it's very disjointed at times, and then Bruno will do something or Rashford will do something. Just more like an individual thing. They get them out of jail, and that's more what it is in terms of like.
It's just look at him. He's brilliant. He's got another assist to his name.
I don't like to compare the teams, and I don't really like to compare them with Spurs. But if you look at that game on Sunday for Spurs, and you look at this season, Kane and Son they do score the goals and get them out of jail. But when you look at it, it's a team game. The way they're organised.
The way they play, it's a team game. Spurs is completely different. United just seem to be, relying on that individual sort of wee bit more luck than skill, in my opinion.
Interesting, because you say that luck, but then 9 away ones in a row, that can't just be luck. You know what I mean? So it's hard,
That's what I mean. They're inconsistent. They'll get matches where they're lucky, and then they'll get matches where they are the better side. But
a lot of these teams should be before they even get going. You know what I mean? This is the thing. I think, and I think United are a dangerous team, but any team that plays them will never take them lightly, because if you're up against United 1-0 and you don't finish them off, there's going to be a spell in the game they'll have, and they'll come back at you. And they're very similar.
They still the quality.
They're very similar to sort of like the way Kane and Son. I think they're very clinical. Rashford doesn't miss a lot of chances. Martial does miss a few, but I think Rashford can be quite clinical. Cavani, if he gets the chances, I think he'll be clinical as well. So they're a dangerous team when they go on and when they get the chances. But just sort of looking at their fixtures coming up now, and as we said, they aren't that far behind. They are 5 points, but they have a game in hand, obviously. So it's almost like a fake table. I think Jose talked about a fake table because he said people are writing Man City off, but they've also played a game less as well. So they've got a big game now on Saturday. They've got a big game tonight against Leipzig. Before we get into that City game, how do you see it going tonight for them? They only need a draw, so you think
you would like to think after beating them 5-0, they'll get a result, whether it's a draw or whether it's a win. They'll get some.
Did you watch the first game against Leipzig?
No, I didn't see that one myself.
I watched it, right? And to be honest, Leipzig dominated possession. They didn't really create a lot. I think they're missing players. The players they've had before, like Werner's and players like that. I think a lot of players are lacking confidence at left side. They're having a lot of the ball, not really creating a lot. A bit like Arsenal times, just sort of keeping the ball but not doing a lot with it. I think United sort of sussed them out. They got that early goal, and then after that they were able to control, they can sort of manipulate the game. But the scoreline gets slightly exaggerated. I think they scored 4 goals in the last 12 minutes or something. So it was 1-0 right up to the late 70s, and then it just sort of went mental towards the end. And honestly, they needed the whistle because it just looked like it could be a cricket score. Just at the end, the left side completely fell apart. I mean, the lad, Upamecano, big fan of him. See for 70 odd minutes, he looked solid enough, and then just the last 20 minutes, he just completely crumbled, and he looked like he'd never played football before.
I've seen a couple of things there where he's highly rated, like money moves, and then
Rashford had come on as well, and Rashford doesn't seem to just inject that vein into these players because they just literally ran all over the place. And it was the same against West Ham. I know Bruno come on, but Rashford come on as well. And when Rashford and Bruno play, it's just like they're a different team completely. And they do rely on them a lot. So you think they can make it enough? They'll have enough to get the job done?
I'd say they should have enough to get through tonight. Obviously, you have to factor in the Pogba thing. That you don't know how that's affected the dressing room. You don't know what's happened behind the scenes there.
I think I was actually expecting a tight game. I actually predicted a 1-1, which would be enough. But looking at it now, having the team that's going to go on with the hour, I think it could be an absolute disaster, or else they'll win easy. It'd be interesting, but both expect United to go free anyway initially. So moving on, they've got Man City away on Saturday. How do you see that going?
I don't know, because Solskjaer, sometimes he comes up with a tactical masterclass. Sometimes it's the big matches where he does show up. So I wouldn't be surprised.
That'd be a big game for both teams. If there was if one team won that, it's going to push them further up, and obviously push them further away from the team they're playing. So get Man City away, Sheffield United away, Leeds at home, Leicester away, Wolves at home. So again, not easy games. United aren't getting it easy. They've got, think about City in there, they've got Leeds in there, they've got Leicester and Wolves on there.
So Everton, the cup sandwich done there too as well. So the wee break there for where the likes of Liverpool will get a break between Palace and West Brom. They're not going to get that break. So obviously he's touched on the fixture congestion and stuff like that. Klopp going on about all week. You can't really, the fixtures don't lie there where United are going to be getting it a wee bit tighter, whereas our teams have a chance to rotate and rest.
I think the City game is going to be, they've got a good record against Man City though. Now, they're better, they only beat them at home last year, but they've a really good record away from home against City. But they do seem to have Man City's number, especially since Ollie's come on. They've really good record against Man City, so I think they'll go into that game confident. And City aren't the team they used to be, I don't think. They're not. They're missing Aguero as well, and they've also lost players. So I think it'll be a tight game. Sheffield United away, just feel so sorry for Sheffield United at the moment.
After last year, I liked them. I liked the way they played, the way they came up, and they were competitive. But just no luck.
Point is beyond me. They've been on every game they've been on. It's been tight. It could have went the other way. It's same last year, but they've won in a lot of games 1-0. And it's this year it's going the other way. They're getting bit by the odd, and even that moment with Vardy, you just see when it's going bad for you. Just things like that go against you. Where one lapse of concentration and Vardy's on them. Vardy does what Vardy does. It's tough. It's tough life for them at the moment. They're sitting at 1 point after 11 games. So it's hard to be confident in getting any results at the moment. But that'll still not be a game going there. Think about teams, right? That sort of have the really low points tallies. Like Derby got 11 points in a season. I remember Villa were really, really poor there a few years ago. Remember Les Cott was there and all. They were just getting smashed every week.
That was an absolute shambles in squad.
Huddersfield were very poor a few years ago. I think they finished with 17, 18 points. Sheffield United aren't that bad. They ain't at that level. Anybody that goes to Sheffield United still expecting a tough game. You look at 1 point after 11 games and think, geez, they're out of their depth. But
they're a bucket too, but far from it.
So that'll not be an easy game going there. Leeds at home, that'll be a cracker because that Man United Leeds the right way.
Hopefully fans back for that. You'd love to see fans at that match.
Hopefully. Leicester away is going to be tough. And Wolves at home as well is going to be tough. So tough games for United. And you know what's probably going to happen. They're probably going to lose a couple and win a couple. So
exactly. Some of the United fans come crashing back down to earth.
They'll probably lose one of them lesser teams and then pull out a result. Because that's what they seem to do. They seem to pull out. See,
Uh,
when you never expect them, they won a game. They'll just pull out a result, like away to PSG, or they always seem to pull out results when they need them the most.
they'll go through the night. They'll beat City at the weekend, then they'll lose 2 or 3 matches probably.
Mm. So, in terms of points, how many do you think they might get there, roughly?
Obviously, as we're saying with our teams, you can see them winning 5 matches and stuff. See that United.
I know.
I'm going to go out with a bold call for all these matches, and I'm going to say 2-1.
2-1.
2-1. I'd say 6-7. I say 6-7 points.
Well, that'll be a big. Yeah, the fans will be turning on LA again. If that's the case. Right. Going to move on now and look at Man City's running. They're the last team before the sort of these top 6 teams. Now they have got Man United away, Wolves at home, Southampton away, Newcastle at home, Everton away. So just before we sort of touch on them games, how do you think Man City are this year and how they've been doing and stuff? What's not? There's something not quite right there.
There's something not right. I don't know what it is. You sort of hear sometimes about Guardiola with his old teams where I think it's a period of 3 years or so, I think it might be, where it just stops working, where it's like a burnout sort of how intense he is. So you're sort of thinking, is it at that point? Does he need a complete overhaul of squad? Especially in giving a new 2-year deal, because they're not going to sack him. They're definitely not sacking him. He'll have to walk out in his own accord.
I think you're right in what you're saying, because there is a bit of a drop off with maybe it has to do with the pep factor of 3 years in cycles. I do think as well, the players aren't good enough anymore. I don't think they're at the level they were a couple of years ago. You look at the players that's left. Company, David Silva, Aguero's not in the team now. He's been injury record. Plus he's older. Fernandinho's older. They've lost 4 key players. And you look at Sané too. It's left. There's 5. They haven't really replaced any of them players. And the players come on not of the level. Rodri's not at the level of Fernandinho for me. They've never replaced Company. Jesus isn't good enough to replace Aguero. The lad Torres has come on. He's not on Sané's level yet. He's young, but he could get there. But for me, he's not on Sané's level. So there's obviously issues there, and you just sort of look at them now and you think the squad that they used to have is not there anymore. I don't think they can. You look at City's bench and go with 5, 6 players there, and then come on now it's maybe only 2 or 3 on the bench. Foden for me is one that needs to be playing more, but doesn't seem to be favoured. He plays one game and then drops out. Maybe I know Pep does that with players. He does sort of. You look at players that Barcelona did it with. Sort of young players, he does manipulate them and he brings them in for a game and takes them out. So he's trying to protect them. But for me, if they're going to finish if they're going to get him in Liverpool this year, they're going to have to play him because he's one of their best players.
They do. They need to up a game. Like obviously, as you're saying, Sané, Company, Silva. Especially Company and Silva, 2 leaders are leaving and not replacing them. It's going to be expected to have a dub but with Sané and say Torres replacing them, they're 2 completely different types of players. So it could be just a matter of it'll take time to figure it out and adapt a new style, but who knows?
You think they'll finish in the top 4?
I think they have too much now, they.
These games, United away, West Brom at home, Southampton away, Newcastle at home, Everton away, not too bad. You look at United away, it'll obviously be difficult. West Brom at home, you fancy them there to get 3 points. Away, be difficult. But again, you'd still expect them to get at least a draw. But you'd fancy they won. Newcastle at home should win. Everton away, they've actually got a really good record against Everton since Pep's been there. Apart from that, since they lost that game 4-0 to Everton, I think they've beat them every single time since. So they've a really good record there. I could see them possibly pushing up the league over Christmas.
I can see them pushing up as well. No, I don't see them dropping outside the top 4, as you said. I'd say at this stage you're looking Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool, City. There's going to be no United winning leagues, as Zach said, but...
Well, see, if I still think United can be just adjust their consistency, they'll put a couple of teams under pressure. Spurs and Chelsea still expecting to have a dub at some stage, but we'll see. Moving on. So, obviously, a treat for any League of Ireland fans. Jones obviously watched that game at the weekend. Didn't see much of this. Only seen the highlights today because of the Spurs Arsenal game, but at the same time. But a big game in Ireland. Dundalk against Shamrock Rovers at the Aviva. Dundalk ran out 4-2 winners. Obviously, it must have been a very entertaining game. John, what did you think of the game as a whole? Was it a really good quality game, or was the defences just very poor?
Oh, you see, the defence are very poor. Both of them are playing five at the back, so you're a wee bit sort of surprised that they're leaking the goals. But Rovers, they went the whole season unbeaten in the league. Well, half a season because of COVID. But that was their first loss they picked up. And it's sort of interesting, obviously, the Dundalk manager, you've seen him get fined 50, well, the club getting fined 50,000 for him not having the correct coaching badges last week in Europa League.
He's banned, really.
He was banned from any head coach duty because he didn't have a pro license or nothing, so they got that big fine. But you're sort of expecting a wee bit more of the Rovers. They sort of dominated the match they start off with, but they weren't creating much in the way of chances apart from 2 goals that they got were from corners.
I think there's no doubt about it. They're the 2 best teams in the country at league level. There's no doubt about that. That's been over the last couple of years. Do you think Rovers are far away from Dundalk, or do you think Dundalk are still by far the best and the best team in the league?
No, Dundalk's dropped off. I think that Rovers, obviously, if they keep their team together and keep improving, like their academy, they sold the keeper Bazunu to Man City for $500,000. So they've got a good academy in place, whereas Dundalk are a wee bit more reliant on the European money and bringing in players. And they actually have 18 players out of contract. Your Mikey Duffy's and stuff like players like that. So they could, if they don't hold on to them, then it could be a completely different side next year, and you don't know who they're going to bring in and what the manager's going to do over the course of a full season. So
it'd be interesting to hear what way the fine affects them financially, because obviously would have got a lot of money in from the Europa League financially. And I know Virgin Media have televised every game by the Dogs had in the Europa League. The last one being against Arsenal tomorrow night. So still think they're going to make a lot out of it. And they've sort of been in Europe twice now. They've been in Europe, isn't it? They run Europe 2 years ago. They got in the group stages as well. So
it was 2016, I think it was. But 50,000's 50,000 at the end of the day, especially for an Irish club. But they got 150,000 for not making a tackle damage against Arsenal. So I'd say that's enough to cover it.
Crazy, isn't it?
That's crazy money they're throwing about for not making a tackle.
Maybe that's that lillywhite. They're meant to be the lillywhites too, so maybe they're a bit soft like Spurs. Here, one other thing I'd like to, because I actually said to you before we come on, I said disappointed in myself this year not being able to watch a lot of Irish football. Usually we try and get the round on a Friday night. Obviously times have changed, and we also know with Shane, coach of also made in City, these games don't be just on a Friday night anymore. They be scattered out over the weekend. So a lot of times Derry could be playing at the same time as like Liverpool's playing, and you're looking to watch that obviously, so it's difficult. But do you think Shamrock, you've also asked that more, do you think Shamrock Rovers could possibly make the same sort of impact that Dundalk have made in Europe? Obviously they're going to have we're finished in top of the league, they're going to have the same qualification opportunity as Dundalk had this year. So do you think that they could possibly go on and do what Dundalk did and make it through the group stages?
I'd say they're not far off. They're a good solid outfit, so they're not too far off it. But I think they do need a couple of good signings. They sort of seem to be they're lacking something where they could push on and be absolutely dominant. Obviously Dundalk just depends what they do this off season, but Rovers are not far away. As I say, see with the academy setup that they have, it's really impressive that they actually had their B team playing the first division this year. So they were actually playing boys as young as 14, 15, 16. So it's in that way they've got good talent coming through. They're not going away.
There's no doubt Rovers are definitely getting back to where they used to be. And they've obviously had a few years where they were nowhere near it. And Dundalk's obviously been out there, and it's almost been like a one-team league where Dundalk's obviously been rubbing it up for the last few years. So it's obviously their closest challengers now, and it's the biggest challenge they'll face. Because you say Rovers don't seem to be going anywhere. So it'll be interesting to see where they can make that impact next year. But you think in terms of what Dundalk's done in Europe, and obviously with someone like Rovers now that's come along, and they've obviously matched them in the league and beat them. So do you think that possibly the standard of Irish football is improving? And when they get to Europe now, it's not so much of a gap in the qualification stages, maybe so much in the group stages that there is a bit of a step up. But if you actually look at Dundalk's games in the group stages this year, they've actually been competing in most of the games. Obviously sometimes the scoreline, they might have got towards the end of the game, there might have been extra goals gone, but they've actually, in the games I've seen them, they've competed in most of them, and they've made it very difficult for these other teams. So do you think that there is positives there as Irish fans of football?
Without doubt, the standard has went up massively in the last few years, and obviously Dundalk and Rovers, but they've been sort of set the standard. Cork as well, when they were competing with Dundalk, they got relegated this year, but the standard's definitely far higher, and you see it that it's not so much luck when it comes to Europe, that they're up there, they're of a decent standard, and as you say, they've competed in some of the matches. Some of the matches, they haven't been good enough, they've been too slow, they've been too defensive, whatever it's been. Whereas, you look at the Arsenal match, Arsenal were dominating them, but it was the Arsenal match, and actually I think about the Vienna match, where it was mistakes by the goalkeepers that cost them. So obviously, if you're giving away goals for free in European matches, it's not going to slide.
They pursued Arsenal for 42 minutes, I think it was, and then they conceded 2 goals right before half time, and then at that level, the game's over. You say
exactly.
Goalkeepers made massive errors, and again, that does come down to you don't get away with them at that level. If you look at they missed a couple of penalties too, I think, on this campaign, so they definitely could have got results. I think tomorrow night they might have an hour chance because Arsenal have nothing to play for, so they might just put out a youth team, a really young team, and they might have a chance there getting a result at home. So that came in the Viva as well,
Viva, that one as well. So
it'll be interesting to see, but it'll be difficult, obviously. But it's the last game of the season for them against Arsenal at home, so I'm sure they'll enjoy it no matter what.
I should be up for it. They're not up for it. I don't know what'll get you up for a game of football.
So obviously talking about Irish football, yesterday there was the World Cup 2022, which is in Qatar. Qualifying draw was done. Looking at the draw, we're going to look at both Irish teams, but just starting off with the Republic here. The draw for me, if you look at it, Portugal, Serbia, Luxembourg, and Azerbaijan, I think it's pretty favourable. You look at the top seeds, the teams you would have wanted to avoid was definitely England, Belgium, France, Spain. I know Germany haven't been great, but you still want to avoid them. So for me, they've avoided them. And then if you had offered me a team in pot 2, it would have been Serbia. I watched them against Scotland. I thought they were very, very poor. They do seem to be in decline as well. So looking at the group as a whole, I think Stephen Kenny will be happy enough.
100%. Stephen Kenny would be happy with that draw. There's going to be some good games of football in it. Obviously, it'd be good to challenge yourself against Portugal. They're the top seeds that you'll expect the top of the group. But at the end of the day, they could underestimate Ireland. You've seen them do it before, where they went to Germany and got results. You wouldn't put it past Ireland. Obviously, you're not going to bet on it.
We've beat better teams before, so I think with the Portugal games, yeah, it'll be free swings because you're not expected to get anything. But I do think in terms of pot 1 teams, they're not one of the strongest ones. To be honest, I really wanted to avoid Denmark again. I didn't want to play them because
you fed up between Denmark, and I've seen boys saying they actually had their flights booked to Georgia.
Georgia, don't get on. Georgia's improved a lot since we sort of met them the first time. So I think if you look at the Denmark one, teams are going, Denmark are great, but you look at the people's. I think they're in Scotland's group. I think Scotland fans were saying the same too on Twitter and stuff, but I think some expert tweeted like they've only lost like 4 games in the last 2 years or something like that. So they're no mugs, and like we actually never beat them in any of the games we played against them. So I really wanted to avoid them. So for me,
playing the same teams.
So it was good to get somebody different as well, as you say. Portugal don't know much about us. We'll obviously have to sort out our goal scoring problem. But I do think if you look at the games that Kenny did have there is reasons to be optimistic. Style of football has improved. They're actually creating chances now. Before they were relying on somebody knocking the ball into the box. It's just a lack of quality at the moment. The finishing's been poor, but we're actually creating chances now. But I do think there is reasons to be optimistic, and I actually think we might qualify to this group. Now, well, I don't mean qualify because you have to finish first to qualify, but second place will get you a playoff. I actually think we're going to make a great chance here of getting a playoff spot.
No, I agree with you on the point that obviously Portugal and Serbia are not the worst teams in them. Well, not the best teams in them 2 pods. Like you would have took them if you're offered them. So basically, Serbia from finishing second point of view, Portugal, as you see, you get the free swing. Luxembourg and Azerbaijan, Azerbaijan will be a tough journey, but football-wise, you'd expect they take points off them, no bother. And as you say with Kenny as well, you boys are asking for the style of football to improve. You've got Kenny coming on. He's put on a good style of football. It ain't going to happen overnight. And they're creating chances, all right, they're not getting put away. But Kenny done an unbelievable job with that under-21 team. And some of the players there, it's just going to take a couple of years to get them players through.
Very unfortunate with the results yet, because we're creating performances and players weren't taking chances. But in terms of the COVID issues as well, he's had a lot of stuff to deal with. We could never really play our best team. There always seem to be players missing with the COVID. So a lot of things that go against us. The Slovakia game was one that we really should have won. But I think now, when Kenny came in, I was always going to give him time. But if you look at it now, there's obviously the time over his head. He hasn't won a game yet. Whether that's down to bad luck or anything, that really shouldn't be happening with that group that they had. Should still at least been beating Bulgaria, for example. But for me now, you look at that group, I think if Kenny wants to sort of stamp his authority and be in the job for a few years, he needs to qualify from this group. Not qualify, but at least get top two. I think if they were to finish third in this group or fourth or fifth, for example, I think that will be it. I think a lot of fans will be looking for a change.
Don't doubt you are, because there's already been fans saying, get Kenny out after years of call for a change from hoofing the ball up a pitch, but completely overhaul the style of play is not going to happen overnight. It's the same with Arteta, it's going to take time, so there's no point asking for something when it doesn't happen straight away. Want to change again, back to what you hit it. So in my opinion, I do think yes, they be given time, they come good and they will come good, I think.
I completely agree. I think just as well. He needs to, the one thing he needs to do now is pick a team and stick to it. Almost like have an idea now over these next few months. Obviously injuries will come on it, but if you've got everyone available, try and think of your best team and then really work on it, because there's been a lot of chopping and changing. A lot of it's not been down to him. There's been a lot of COVID issues, but he does need to try and find a system now that's going to work for him, because he has changed the system a lot. So for me, I think I would like to see Conley playing with Troy Parrott up front, and I think he will. I think because Troy was someone that he played a lot on the 21 team, and I'd like to see Mullenby be playing every week or every game. I think he was on a game and he was out of a game. But I do think we've got I think in terms of young players, we're not that disadvantaged. I think there's some good players there.
Definitely, as I say, done a good job with under-21s. There's talented players coming through. It's just a matter of, Park going out and loan with Millwall, I think it is. Boys getting games there and playing regularly, and then they're going to come good with experience. So,
definitely, and I think there's every reason to be optimistic with that group. And hopefully we can get through it. And we're on our way to Qatar 2022, aren't we?
That's definitely doable in that group, I'd say.
Now, you're looking at the Northern Irish group. I think they've been slightly unfortunate with a draw. You could possibly look again. They've avoided the likes of England, France, Belgium, Spain. They've got Italy. Now, Italy, again, they're probably a big name, but if you look at, they're actually qualified for the Nations League finals. But if you actually look at them player for player, they're probably not the Italians teams that's before. You think about World Cup teams, they probably haven't got them players anymore. Still not be easy. Still top seeds, and a bit like us with Portugal, you still expect them to top the group. I think that one of the really cursed their luck, Switzerland. Switzerland are usually like a top seeded team. I think they're the highest ranked team. They're the highest ranked second seed team. So they would have been the one that everybody wanted to avoid. We've obviously played them within the last couple of years. I think we lost once away in Switzerland, and I was actually at the home game. We drew 1 each, and they've got a lot of Premier League players and players that are playing around Europe's top 5 leagues. So that'll be a really, really tough draw.
It's the same way with Denmark. It's the same way with Denmark. People sort of forget that the quality that they actually have until you see the team sheet. There are some really good players there.
Sorry for Northern Ireland, because I see over the last few years they've had really, really bad draws. They seem to get like you had Holland and Germany there for the last one, didn't they? Really, really unfortunate with your qualifying draws. But again, I think there's reasons to be optimistic with them. You look at them performances against Bosnia, and then you look at the one against Slovakia. They were very unlucky to go out to Slovakia. I just think maybe again there might be something missing, but again they have a new manager, more time to work on what he wants. And again, it'll probably come down to the games against Switzerland if they're going to qualify. But they're not without a chance. There's no doubt they're not without a chance. They've improved a lot, Northern Ireland, I have to say, and they're a good side to watch as well. They play good football, and a lot of that was down to Michael Owen. But with Ian Baraclough now, they've really got the guts of a good team there, and got a lot of young players. I think they're very similar to ourselves. Goal scoring's an issue, but again, there's definitely reasons to be optimistic. I think it's a tougher group than ourselves, but definitely one that they can probably still have an outside chance of getting out of it.
Exactly. It's more of an outside chance in the Republic. As you say, Switzerland's a bit harder than Serbia. Switzerland, when you look at it, would have a chance of beating Italy. So
yeah, well,
they need to go Italy, do them favours and beat Switzerland.
I think there's definitely. I think you're right about that. I think remember we were in a group of Switzerland, Denmark, they were sort of beating each other as well. I think there's, in terms of the top two, that's probably, if you look at all the groups, that's probably the group. Italy will be thinking, they'll be thinking they've had a bad draw. Do you know what I mean? Because they'll think we're not guaranteed to top this group, and then Northern Ireland obviously as well. So you could possibly see like a 3-team tussle, which might help Northern Ireland.
No, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Obviously, Michael O'Neill's left, and they've got Ian Baraclough now. So it'll be interesting to see over the course of a qualifying campaign that what he does with the job, what he does with that side, if he keeps them up the same standards that was set before, or is we bit of a drop off?
No, let's hope the two nations get on well, and they're both from Qatar in 2022. I think if you go back 10 years ago, both teams would have thought they had no chance, and that's the thing now about it. Both teams probably have got improved a lot, and they probably do think they've a better chance of qualifying when these groups come out. But just going to fly through some of the other groups, England, Norway and Hungary. Not Norway, Hungary and Poland. So again, if you look at some of the other teams in that group, I think Harry Kane will be licking his lips, because they've got Sam Marino, and I think they've got Andorra or something. There's a couple of games there he'll fancy getting that England record. But you look at, I think I was watching Sky Sports News yesterday, and they were sort of, England are going to walk through this group. Norway are the team in pot 3, or not Norway, Hungary are one of the teams in pot 3 I would have really wanted to avoid. A lot of good young players. And you talk about Shiblowski, and they're actually going to the Euros as well. So they're going to be mugs. And then we know what Poland are like. They're always about, and they're always hard to beat. And they've also got Lewandowski. So you're going to see, I think we're finally going to see Harry Kane versus Lewandowski as well. So that'll be an interesting one.
It'll be an interesting group, definitely. But I don't think the English are going to get it as easy as what they thought they were going to, because it's still tough.
That'll be a tough group with them two teams now. And the thing too about them other teams, I think them 3 teams will beat them all. They're in a 16 group, so they'll basically, all them games against the bottom seeds won't count with the teams. I think it's Andorra, Kazakhstan, and San Marino. So you'd expect them teams all they won, home and away against the 3 teams. So it'll come down to results against Poland and Hungary, and I think Hungary and Poland will be tough opponents. If you just touch on Scotland's group, they've got a relatively favourable group. They'll think they've got Denmark, Austria, and Israel. Israel's probably one of the tougher top 4 teams, the top 4 teams. And Scotland obviously struggled against Israel. They needed the penalty shootout. They beat them in the semi-final on their way to the Euros. And they had them in the Nations League as well, and they lost to them. So that'll not be easy. And then we know what Denmark's like. You're always going to get a tough game. And then Austria as well. I think that they'll be tough opponents. So no guarantee Scotland will get it easy.
I wouldn't fancy them in that group, to be honest.
No.
You're saying we were favourable when you Austria and Denmark. I just think they're a wee step above them. Serbia's closer to the Republic of Ireland. That kind of way where you could see that as favourable. But I think Denmark, Austria, and Israel, I think it might be a wee bit too much for Scotland.
And then Wales' group, they're on with Belgium. I can't mind who the other team is. I'm nearly sure they've got a favourable enough group, but if you look at all the nations, I think Ireland have they've had a really good run of it. And Ireland do tend to get the run of ball with these sort of qualifying groups sometimes. I think they've had a right result with getting these teams. If you look at Scotland and Northern Ireland, who are both pot 3, I think we've a lot more favourable draw.
100%. For Republic of Ireland, out of the pot 3 teams, they've got the best draw a lot.
Definitely. Hey, John, that probably finishes us off. I'm going to fly for these European games. I actually forgot on the last show because we were from it, so I'm trying to remember tonight. Got Leipzig, Man United. I went for a 1-1 draw. You think United will get the job done?
I think I'd say United will get the job done.
Some of these other games, Chelsea's playing Krasnodar. I think they'll win 4-0 again. It's like a dead rubber. You're expecting Chelsea to win. Liverpool away to Midtjylland. confident of a one.
Hey, Liverpool put out a reserve side, but I'd still expect them to scrape a one.
Man City, Marseille. I think Marseille is one of the worst teams in the Champions League this year. They've been really, really poor. I think City
They've been
again.
brutal. City after won it.
Well, do you know AVB's been coming out with some really strange statements over the last few weeks? He said yesterday they asked him about the Man City game, and Marseille actually have a chance of finishing third in the group. So them and Olympiacos both have 3 points. So again, it's not really a dead rubber for them because they'll only try and win the Europa League. But they asked him. He said, "Oh, you must be feeling a bit more confident. Man City's going to rest players." He said, "No, Man City's B team would still beat our team." It just comes out with some of these strange comments,
but he's not wrong, to be fair. But
but you think as a manager,
City's 2 or 3 players deep at every position.
It just seems very negative. Then moving on to Thursday, Dundalk Arsenal. Be great to see Dundalk get a result. I think Dundalk.
See it happen.
Dundalk might prefer to play against Arsenal's first team. Might have more of a chance because their B team seems to be doing alright in this Europa League. All these young players. I think if Arsenal racked up with Aubameyang and boys like that, Dundalk might feel a bit more confident. What do you think?
No, I'd say I still fancy Arsenal get the job done. I'd say maybe 3 or 4-1.
I just going 3-0. Don't want to be too harsh on Dundalk, but I think maybe Arteta could look at this and go, I know it could backfire again if Aubameyang broke his leg or something. But why not put Aubameyang into this match and maybe score a hat trick? Maybe get his.
Because Aubameyang's on 300 grand a week. He probably wouldn't be arsed to be stand playing Dundalk.
Rangers, hey, I'll tell you what a run they're having. They're away to Lake Poznan. They only needed better Benfica's result. They top the group. And if both teams won, Rangers will top the group on head-to-head. So I think Rangers will go all out they want it because they'll think about getting the easier draw in the next round.
See, to be fair, Rangers, to be competing with Benfica, as they've done that group, it just shows how far they've came. As much as I like the wine boys up about Celtic and all those Celtic fans start, think that Celtic's Barcelona, so there. But no, I do think Rangers came on leaps and bounds to be with Gerrard, especially the season you see a league table and how they're doing in Europe.
I can't mind who was on one. I think was it me and Zach were chatting about it. I think me and Zach were chatting about it. And we were saying that for Celtic to have any chance of winning the league, they had to win every game until they play Rangers. In general, they've actually dropped points at home to St Johnstone. I think there's a very, very strong chance now Rangers are going to win this league. Rangers keep being consistent. I think by the time Celtic maybe pull the plug with leading in, they could be that far behind. It's going to be too late.
I think it will be.
Then it's to see what happens. Celtic's actually playing Lille at home in a dead rubber. Celtic, doesn't matter, win, lose or draw, they're going to finish bottom of this group. I've gone for a 2-1 Lille win because Lille, if Lille won, they'll top their group. So I'm sure Lille will become away their full strength team. If they won this game, it's an easier draw.
I fancy myself Lille, they're a good side.
Spurs home to Antwerp. Funny group this one. Spurs is on. The Spurs haven't really been playing that well in it, but they are qualified. But they're 2 points behind Antwerp. So if they want to top the group, they'll have to beat this team at home. How do you see that going?
I don't think Mourinho cares about topping the group. I think it's one of them years that see the teams that are qualified, but it's between second and first, no qualifying top of the group. I don't think it matters. I think they'd be more interested in just rotating the team and giving players a wee breather.
He's definitely going to rotate, but I still think
it still should be good enough.
I think at home as well. Even if he plays a similar team to the team they split at home, I don't know what it is with these teams. They just don't seem to play away from home. These European teams. So I think Spurs will get the job done 2-0. And it'll be top group, and that will be a really, really strong start to the season based on where they are in the league. Leicester home to Athens last game. Leicester again as well. They're joint with Braga. They're ahead on the head-to-head record. So again, as long as they won or better the result, both teams won, they'll top the group. So at home to Athens, you see Leicester winning that.
I'd say they won probably 3-0.
3-0. I've gone 3-0 as well. Hey John, that's us flying through the predictions. I want to thank. Great show. Really enjoyed it. Some really good insight on there as well. What do you think?
Pleasure, big man. It was good being on.
Definitely. I hope to get you on again. And I'm sure I'll see you next week when we're back at Maiden City.
Hopefully I'll see you and I'll come back and see how some of these predictions are getting on.
Thanks, John. Good man.
Right, good man.